live, and I'm gonna send out an announcement.
I put one in our group already.
I saw that, but I gotta post my own.
Yeah.
You guys can tune into my stream to see us all three of us together.
I'm just tuning in on yours.
The chroma key worked a lot better. I don't know why. When we did the first one, that was I had a really bad chroma key around Titus, and then Berk, you had like I think you had like a big red magenta outline around you.
That's the power of my stand.
Mambo number 5.
And then I hope you guys have that the little talking points list that I whipped up in like 10 minutes.
I don't know
blatantly copied from the Metroid Dread one.
I don't know about you guys, but like I have on my normal Discord, I have had like the little quote you can put under your name on Discord for my Discord I use casually outside of VTubing stuff. I have had just this is the power of my stand, Mambo number 5 there for like 2 years now. Has not changed. I don't know why the fascination with that song in particular. It's just I just think it's funny.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Now here's the process of pasting the Twitch link to like 4 different Discords that I have to be in.
I always like rapid fire put them in like every single like I have them lined up before I hit stream, and then I just rapid fire click return click return.
Well, the worst part is everyone has a different like name for their self promo channel, so it's like, okay, what did he call his channel for self promotion? It's like yeah, it's completely different.
Nick F is the first one to draw chat blood.
Yeah, the space is
Nick,
dead.
Yeah.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Papa
God.
Nick.
I mean, Dead Space is dead in more ways than one.
What's up? It's your boy Iron Mouse. I think she's still going on her subathon. That's absolutely
Is she still
insane.
going? I saw when she hit number 1.
Every time
it's legitimately never going to end.
Yeah, every time she's about to end, like every time she's about to end, Connor or like Booby or like one of our other friends will join in and be raise the count, and it'll like quadruple. Like,
all right. Well, we are live. All the updates have been posted. Welcome everybody. Welcome to a very chill Friday night stream with my 2 guests, Mr. Berk and Mr. Titus. I say guests. I mean, I've had you on like many times. Although this is only our second like games discussion stream. Our very first one was Metroid Dread. God, how long ago was that? It must have been back in like
December, I think.
Was it even December or like no? I feel like it was closer to November. Either way, it's been months.
Yeah,
we've promised to do these streams again.
We just had a long time like playing all the games we all recommended to each other. So
some longer than others.
I still have to play Halo, but we have 2 games before that. So.
I gotta play Kingdom Hearts. Yeah. Hold on, I'm putting on.
Are we gonna get copyright stricken if I start singing badly the Kingdom Hearts opening?
Don't
we
do it.
Probably will. Yeah, I'm not going to.
Well, you'll break my ears if you do that.
Hey man, I was in choir. I can sing.
Hold on, I was trying to pull up the Dead Space music, but it's not. There we go. Okay.
Yo, Dead Space music is actually kind of legit.
It's very creepy. That main theme is so fucking creepy. Again, I don't know how loud this is going to be on the stream, so chatters, let me know audio levels. But yeah, we are here talking about Dead Space at the request of Mr. Berk. I'm not even sure why you recommended this game, Berk. I'm guessing this is just one of your favorites.
So before I knew that one of our members was not very good with gore, I thought we were just slinging out our favorite games. And I'm like, oh, Dead Space is like hands down one of my favorite games and franchises of all time. So I was like, oh yeah, Dead Space. That seems like a fun game to play.
Can't believe Titus actually played through Dead Space.
Honestly, it wasn't as bad as I was expecting. There was a few moments that were really like, oh god. But like
I've to ask you a question. Were there any moments where you briefly considered just shutting the game off?
Not out of disgust for like the gore, more, but like one or two
Like
times out of rage. Yes.
rage. Okay. Okay.
I'm about
I'll-
to say, Titus,
I'll-
I heard you had some problems.
Yeah.
Which we can get into. I'll admit there were a handful of moments where so much was happening. I literally considered like I could just quit the game right now. I could just exit the game. But I didn't. I went on. I guess now we're actually talking about the game, so I guess we should kind of follow the talking points. But yeah, this was Dead Space. Which I'm very both you guys, you know, Dead Space and Kingdom Hearts. I'm gonna have very different things to say about both of them. But I'm very I am glad that you picked the games that you chose, because both of these games, I played a little bit of Dead Space, but I never beat it. So I'm very glad that I kind of have had an excuse to go back and play it. And then same with Kingdom Hearts. Like I never would have played this game unless Titus made me at gunpoint. But yeah, I'm glad to have returned to Dead Space. Honestly, we're talking about the game. Let's just get into the talking points. So, overall impressions of Dead Space. Did we like it, dislike it, or some stuff that we liked, stuff that we didn't like, and then maybe some standout features that we thought were notable.
I don't mind spearheading this because I am the biggest fanboy.
You are.
So going back to Dead Space 1 was really interesting. I still love the game. I love all the attention to detail and audio work. Like if you look under flickering lights, you can hear the bulbs flickering and failing. There's certain parts where if you aim your gun at words, it will whisper the word at you. And it is audio direction, so you can hear it on the right or the left side, depending on how you aim your gun to it. And there's all these little amazing details. But coming back to it, I could definitely see some of the wear and tear of the age. It's still one of my favorite games, but it does not hold up as well as Dead Space 2.
Okay.
I give it a solid 8.5 out of 10. If I that's my point blank analysis. It was a good game that deserved a good sequel.
I can go next, unless Titus, you want to go and give your impressions since you played the game for the first time.
You can go ahead. I'll wait.
Yeah, as I said before, it was wonderful to return to this game. I never beat it. As I played it, I remembered the exact part when I stopped playing it, and it was when the fast guys, the fast necromorphs appeared.
Hey.
The flat running
Those
like the
are my
Flash.
favorite enemies.
So I must have been like, nope, I'm not playing this. But yeah, I'm glad to have revisited it. Kind of agree with you in the sense way more dated than I thought. But not as dated as I was expecting. Matter of fact, I think when we went into this, I think I liked Dead Space 2 more than Dead Space 1. And I think you were the opposite. I think you preferred Dead Space 1 over 2.
I prefer 2. I've always been clear.
Do you prefer 2? Okay, I thought it was. I could have sworn it was reversed.
As someone who speedruns 2, I can tell you with confidence I prefer Dead Space 2.
But going into this, I think my thoughts have kind of inversed. I used to love Dead Space 2. Now I think I prefer 1. I think we'll get into that when we talk about how simple Dead Space 1 is and how it doesn't have a story and characters that are super annoying and makes you want to shut off the game. But I still like Dead Space 2, but I think I prefer Dead Space 1. I think I prefer how consistent of a game it is. And it was fun. It was a fun revisit. It was not as scary as I remembered it, but it was just as intense.
Eric?
Like I've said before, like there's a different type of horror with Dead Space where it's not necessarily like spooky jump scare horror. It's just exhaustion horror where you're constantly pelted with even worsening odds to the point where you're like, I can't even deal with this anymore. There's a giant necromorph that's like a planet, the size of a planet, that's like jumping out of this crater. How do I deal with this? But Yeah, it was fun revisiting it. It showed its age and a lot of stuff, but I think it's still pretty good. I think it still holds up really well. There's definitely a reason why a lot of people consider this as a horror classic.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to go, Titus, give us your first impressions of this game that we forced you to play.
Yeah. Just, I think that Dead Space sucks. No, I don't think. Full
That's
on
also true
Freddie,
feelings, Titus.
full on Freddie Prinze Jr. No, it's fine. I didn't. Okay, here's the thing. I don't think it's a bad game. It's just not a game for me. I think it was. I think I appreciate a lot of the things it did, but I do agree with the statement that it's kind of dated. I think the most I got out of it was I really enjoyed. I played this with friends watching me over several nights on Discord, and my papa Nick was one of the people watching too. So it was a fun time. There was some very frustrating moments. It was basically all hands on deck. I'd like ask one of my friends. I'd be like, "All right, I need you to go look up a walkthrough and tell me how to get through this one part because this is some bullshit." Cause, and
I don't know
that
if you
only
want
happened
to.
two.
I don't know if you want to
times.
see what part it was, or if you want to wait to get
We
to
could,
that.
yeah, we could wait, but
Okay,
yeah,
I'm curious to know what part it is.
it was only 2-ish parts that happened, really bad enough that I was like, all right, go pull up a walkthrough for me, please. Help a brother out. But overall, I understand why it has the legacy it does. I understand why it has the fan base it does. It's just like I said, outside of doing something like this, like a sort of book club but with games where someone recommends I play it and we talk about it for a stream, I probably would not go out of my way to play it. I probably never would have played it if it wasn't for this. The same with you and Kingdom Hearts, but
Kingdom Hearts,
it
yeah.
it broadened my horizons, so to speak, so that's fine.
Well said.
For the
Well
people
said.
speedrunning this VOD, what is your final rating of the game?
Is that taken into account the how if I was rating it compared to modern games or
Well, just your
based on,
personal
the
experience.
time?
Fuck modern games and shit like that. We've already said it's dated.
Like a 7.
Okay, that's fair.
I rate it 3 necromorph moons out of 4 markers.
That's fair.
Titus doesn't even get that joke because he hasn't even played Dead Space 3. He hasn't even played the DLC for Dead Space 3. So that joke just went over his head.
I only played the
Alright.
first one.
We'll talk about that later when we talk about how the franchise was killed. Don't worry.
Well, it was made by EA, right?
Oh, it was published by EA, and
Yeah, that'd explain it.
they made sure people knew about it. Yeah, I guess should we move on to just kind of our experience with horror? Because sort of like with Metroid Dread, I kind of wanted to see what our history with horror was. Although it's kind of ironic because now Burke does his own show where he talks about horror
all day.
True.
If either of you want to lead on this one.
I'm probably the least qualified, so I'll go last.
I'll spearhead then. As you know, horror games, I actually never got into horror until Resident Evil 4. I actually couldn't even watch Tremors or something like that without freaking out, having to close my eyes, or as a kid when you put your hand over your eyes and slightly part them a little bit so you can kind of see it.
Tremors.
You know what I'm talking about? The full cower mode. And Dead Space was my first going into this with the lights off, headphones, and it scared the daylights out of me when I first played it. But horror in general, yeah, this was my second ever horror game, ever.
Ooh.
And it got me into playing horror games consistently. So, and then ever since then, I have been a horror fanatic. I have watched Japanese slasher films, weird, European, French art films of horror. I mean, if you name it, I've probably seen some iteration of it.
Sorry, I'm just trying to look for better music that fits. I thought the Dead Space 1 music would be good, but it's just making our discussion really tense.
I mean, you could do Dead Space 2 music.
Just play the Metroid opening. The
Ooh, that'd be pretty creepy.
Tokyo Gore Police for the win. That is a damn right statement right there.
I'll look for something.
Just play the Attack on Titan opening, dude. It's fine.
Oh god, yeah, because I want to get
sued.
But
I can't wait
love
to get
horror games, no matter how jank they are. Because like, Slender really fucking changed.
I said Slender ruined horror. I think we came to that conclusion on your show that Slender ruined horror games.
I was saying, even like when Slender came out and basically walking sim around a map while collecting weird objects became a prominent way to make a horror game. Like I still love horror games in general because it's not always just like big ooga booga monster or the Condemned route of like vicious, frothing, rabies homeless man, which is equally scary.
I love Condemned, and matter of fact, I was putting that on for soundtrack.
Nice, but like, I like horror in general because sometimes the concepts can get weird, and that's what makes horror fun to me. Is when something that could be mundane or never thought about becomes like an existential dread. That's why I really enjoy Junji Ito work.
This stream was made for me.
Yeah, that's where I'm gonna end my statement. I've covered all the bulleted points. I love horror.
Also, when you guys were doing your horror stream together, I was just building up enough points to ban the word yokai. I was gonna ban that.
That would have been a bad night.
What you got against yokai, bro? What you got against yokai? You got something against my boy, Tofu Kozo? You got something against my boy?
I guess I'll get into it. Yeah, experience with horror games. I think I've said this before. I said this on Burke's stream, where as a kid I was really afraid of like horror games. So I never played a lot of it, but I was keenly aware of them. Like, and I think Dead Space was the sort of like Dead Space and Dead Space 2. Those were the two horror games that kind of caught my eye of like, ooh, this is like what a horror game is. So I was always too afraid to approach them, but I love the idea behind them. And I don't know why. It's just as a kid, I loved the idea because to me it's like, oh, that's like an adult's game, like a terrifying horror game full of monsters that are made out of, human guts and gore. But yeah, eventually, I think just me getting into FPSs in general, inevitably you have to play some of the greatest FPS games of all time. You have to play a horror game. Which is why I think everybody attributes Fear to being the first horror game they played, because it's such a good FPS, but it's also got horror elements. So that kind of got me into horror, and then started just expanding from there. And then eventually I ran into the Dead Space trilogy. Had fun with a couple of the games and not so much with one other, and kind of just gaining appreciation of it. Titus, if you would like to explain your experience with horror and how much you love horror games.
So I'm not really a horror kind of guy. I don't know. I just, when I was a kid, I was a scaredy cat. Did not want to be scared. The most like scary things I purposefully, indulged in was like maybe some of the darker elements of shows like Digimon or Yu-Gi-Oh, because like sometimes they got real like dark for a kid show. Or like black comedy in some cartoons like Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. That was kind of horror but for kids. But nothing like they would be like, they'd turn on like Are You Afraid of the Dark, and I wouldn't watch that despite how stupidly cheesy it is. I was a scaredy cat. I was telling Burke this on the other day. I think it was on stream. I literally got scared as a kid watching a Barney directed to VHS movie because they changed the voice actor for Barney to be a deeper voice. And 3-year-old,
you got the uncanny valley effect.
Yeah, 3-year-old Titus was so upset by this that like I freaked the hell out. My poor dad, bless his heart, stayed up all night trying to figure out what was wrong with it. He could not figure it out. Like and as an adult, like I'm not that easily scared. Like I indulged in it a bit more, but like never stuff that was like bloody, like slasher, blood and guts kind of stuff, like Saw or Scream. Even to this day, I have no desire to ever watch anything like that. It was more like if it was like monster related. So like, did you guys have Discovery Kids on cable when you were kids?
I don't even know what that is.
So there was this channel called Discovery Kids. It later got turned into the Hub Network, which is famous for like having My Little Pony on it. That was way after me, but
Oh, they became the hub. I
yeah,
remember that they Transformers Prime on that.
yeah,
Anyway,
it
go
was.
ahead, Titus.
So Discovery Kids basically had a bunch of like game shows and cartoons and edutainment-esque shows for like younger audiences. Like there was some shows like Tuttenstein, which is like an animated show about like King Tut coming back from the dead and like befriending a girl and having hijinks in a museum with like ancient Egyptian monsters and stuff. I guess that was vaguely horror themed. There was this other show that like about this blonde teenage girl who would like discuss like supernatural things or monsters and like discuss like ooh, is it real? Ooh, it never was, but it scared me as a kid. But I watched it because I was a big boy. I was like 10 or something. Or I watched like Lost Tapes on Animal Planet. That was pretty
Oh
scary.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think the most horror that I really indulge in is as an adult. I'm not gonna pretend I'm like a super fan or anything, but I regularly partake in watching videos about or occasionally reading SCPs. I like SCPs. I think they're very interesting, and that's horror related. But that's pretty much like as an adult, like the most horror I do regularly is SCP stuff, which half the
I,
time isn't even horror. So
I thought you were gonna say, you said SCP, and I thought you were gonna say that's horror, and that's horrible.
no, no.
Um,
I mean,
we
I've read a
talked,
few that were horrible, but
me and
not.
me and Burke once again talked about I like how part of the theme of our of our horror stream together was how normies ruin stuff. That was a recurring theme for whatever reason, but yeah, we talked about how SCP Containment Breach ruined the SCP website, and it did. It honestly did.
It's just so funny to me because I have objectively no experience with SCP out of the goofy video game where you don't blink at a statue.
And then
Oh
they got
yeah, the SCP 160
they have to
something.
use they have to use a different statue now because you can't use that
Yeah,
anymore.
they had to change the image because it's copyrighted.
Yeah.
Uh, there's still some good SCPs. Like, uh, I mean, honestly, we could have a whole different stream just about SCPs, so I'm not gonna go
Can
into
you
it. But
can
yeah.
you think of a good SCP whose number is after 2000?
Yeah, there was when they just got to the newest 1,000 mark, however many, I think they were at like 6,000 or something. One of the like entry, I don't think it won that mark, but it's one of the ones that was like a runner up. It was like called the Rainbow Serpent, and it was based loosely off of like the Rainbow Serpent from like Aborigines myth in Australia.
Mm.
I was about to
And it
ask about that.
Yeah, and it's like this. It's basically this like slow burn like horror story about how like in a vague like about now timeline, because that's usually what happens in SCP stories. Like the world basically goes irreversibly, like climate wise and stuff, and just suddenly this monstrous sized snake like just appears, like serpent appears and flies through the sky and can change the weather, and like it's like obviously like a commentary on like irreversible damage to the climate, but like basically you just see like people like constantly, you just see like them throwing everything they have at it and nothing, and it just no sells every single thing, and there's nothing they can do but stop this titan of nature like just reclaiming the earth basically. Like it's honestly it's a long one, but honestly it's a really good read. Like it's not like, I mean, like a lot of people die in it, which is inherently horror, I guess, but it's not that it's inherently scary. It's just a very interesting like kaiju-esque story, I would recommend it. It's called the Rainbow Serpent. If
So to
anybody wants to
me,
look that up.
I mean, that like just on paper, I can respect people who like that, as a concept. But to me, that kind of as SCP has grown, you have way too many writers who feel the need to like amp up the stakes. Like I miss the days of when you had one of the SCPs was a guy who would kill you if you looked at his face, or like
True.
a plague
But like,
doctor. Like,
but
and
like, but like, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but like, to be fair, wasn't like one of the very first and still most to this day most popular propositions for like the number one spot, literally just a biblical angel. I mean, like,
no, for the longest time it was. Well, actually, I don't know whatever's happened to the website since. Who even cares? Because honestly, it's But I remember one of the original propositions was SCP-001 was supposed to be the facility itself. It was an anomalous entity that was maintaining all the other ones. That would have been cool, but they didn't go with that one. But like it just at a certain point you lose track of like there's like I like read the SCP articles and there's like a guy with a sword in one of them, and it's like, what? Who wrote this? It reached the point where it's no longer about making a really creepy story, but just trying to amp everything up, which I don't like. I like the idea of a creepy statue who moves if you don't look at it, and they have it locked up in this mysterious facility that we know nothing about.
Well, I think it evolved from horror to just being generalized in like short stories people thought up, but fitting within the format of it's being contained by like a secret society is all. So it's not always horror. I do agree with that. It used to be most purely horror.
And the people writing it aren't a fan of SCP weirdness. I mean, SCP originally was an evil organization. Like, don't get it. Like that was the whole point of it, is they would literally use D-class personnel as like test subjects who would all die. Nowadays it's seen as like, oh, it's this brave organization that has all these, that has all these recruit. The way people talk about and write about SCP is so weird now. I don't know. I don't want to get into an SCP tangent.
Some people do, but like it's mostly like a gray thing. Like they're like a lesser evil kind of a thing. Like, yeah, like, I mean, it kind of depends. I mean, it's literally being written by thousands of different people, so it just depends on the author. I mean, look, I'm not one to talk about the horror aspect of SCP because my favorite SCP is that I've read recently is literally a phone call service where a bunch of mice will help you find lost items, and I just thought that was really cute. So I have no room to like talk about the validity of horror in SCP. So I'm just saying.
I think 682 is. Burke, are you saying something, by the way? Your mouth is moving. I can't tell.
Oh, that's the chitter effect.
Okay,
it's literally
it's
an actual technical glitch.
But I was gonna say, I think 682. That is the extent that an SCP should be dangerous. Like the hard to destroy reptile, it can become a cataclysmic event if it gets out of hand. Otherwise, the way they're maintaining it, it's just an organism that is hard to kill. Like I like that. I prefer that. I don't like what's happened to it, or it's become this just. I don't know. We shouldn't get into SCP. We got to talk about Dead Space.
All right. Last point I have to make on this subject. 682 is the Charizard of the SCP universe. Anyway, let's move on.
I think 173 is the Charizard. It's either the Charizard or the Pikachu of the SCP.
It doesn't matter. We gotta move on.
Okay.
I have nothing to commentate here.
Okay. We talked about SCP. Perfect. We talked about our experience with horror games. I guess right away we can get on with gameplay, unless we want to talk about horror first. I'd say let's move on to gameplay. What did we think about it? Do we like it? Not like it? This was mainly written for Burke. Did we enjoy how it was basically Resident Evil 4 in space?
It's better Resident Evil 4 until you get to speed running.
Good things with the combat, and things that could be improved if they were to potentially make a reboot. Which I didn't put space to talk about. I don't think. We can talk about that maybe later in the stream. But Titus, I'll let you lead since you are first impressions guy. What did you think of the gameplay?
I think it's rough, Bob. Not gonna lie, I think it's pretty rough. Look, the handling is not. Look, I will say this: I played with a controller,
What did you play this on? That's the big question.
PC.
Okay.
That's where you fucked up.
So with PC, I had to actually mod mine. I had to patch mouse support fixed, and even then it wasn't fully fixed. I prefer the Infinite IKEA. Maple. But
Be nice to
It's a good
Maple.
one.
He's a good one.
yeah, I had to mod mine. And then I also had to mod mine for an FOV fix, so I could expand the FOV. But that's besides the point. Can I ask you something, Titus? And we're not here to judge.
Yeah,
What difficulty did you play on?
I played it on the normal difficulty.
Okay.
Fair enough.
If you had played on easy, we wouldn't have judged you any less.
No, I was like, I'm not. Like, I saw it, and I'm like, look, I'm not gonna play it on hard because I'm not a psychopath, but I'm not playing on easy either. Like, I'm not a bitch. Like, no
you have
offense
to
to people who play in easy mode, but like,
You have to complete the game once, and then you have to play it on impossible, and only then do we consider you having completed the game.
I will
like-
be streaming my Impossible run later this month.
Oh my god.
I might have
Um,
given up if I tried to do impossible. Like, I would have just gotten too frustrated with it.
not that.
You know what? I could see my. It'd probably take a while to do impossible. To me, the hard part is just how it's such like a scary, chaotic game. Like Halo, I can totally do a lasso run with, but like this it's because you're dealing with super hard gameplay on top of just this terrifying atmosphere. This like
All right.
oppressive atmosphere. Anyway, Titus, get back into what you thought about the gameplay.
Yeah, work
Speaking
me
of the
last. I have a
gameplay.
lot to say.
Hot take on the gameplay. It's not even, the game itself isn't even that hard. Like, in terms of like the gameplay, the major problems are that the controls are ass. No, like, I'm just
On
gonna say it,
PC,
they're ass.
yeah.
And then like, they give you like zero ammo. Like, they give you no ammo whatsoever. Like, I cannot tell you the amount of times in this game. Like, I know like resource management is a thing in games, but like, I cannot tell you the amount of times like they would just be like, all right, here's like room 1 of this new area. There are like 10 guys coming at you. They will take 5 bullets to kill while aiming at their like weak spot. You have 6 bullets total. Good fucking luck. Like, what the hell am I supposed to? There was so many times I would literally just have to just juke them, like run around for like 30 minutes, like dodging out of the way barely, like
Weird.
stomp once, keep dodging. Once I kill one, I pick up like 4 ammo. It kills a single enemy, and then I have to repeat the process. Like,
That
it
is-
was ridiculous.
So maybe, and this is maybe just because I've played the game before. I found the exact opposite. By the end of the
I have
game,
an overabundance of ammo.
I
To
had
the point.
Burke. I had so many pulse rounds. You have no idea.
So I did a
I-
one gun run myself.
I was about to ask that before you get into that. Don't say what gun it
Yeah.
is. How should I say this? Women love looking at each other's zodiac signs. Men, we determine it through a different way, and that is through what gun you use in Dead Space or what guns you had equipped. Titus, can I ask you what weapons that you had equipped in your Dead
Yeah,
Space
well,
run?
I remember Burke telling me beforehand the rifle sucks, and I'm like, I have to see, because
Really?
you know I was playing
Rifle's
around
so
with,
good.
On hard mode and impossible, it is garbage.
like I was playing
Really?
around with the
Mhm.
boys TM on Discord, like I was saying. So I said, I was like telling them you said that, and I was like, I gotta try it at least. I tried it, literally get through like a quarter to half of like my like clip, and like I kill a single enemy with it, and it's not like because I had bad aim or anything. It just
It
it's-
sounds like
bad aim.
sounds like bad aim. That pulse rifle, you aim for the limbs, that thing, and if you upgrade it too, that's key. Is you have to have it fully upgraded by the end, and it's just because that's what I did. I stuck with the pulse rifle. I had other weapons too, but
I was upgrading
ahead.
my health to stay alive because there was so little ammo. I was
Dead
getting my
Space
ass
is-
kicked, so I
Dead
had
Space
to
is a game
update
about
the
aggression.
HP.
it is, and
I
that's
had to
that's
up
a
the
misleading.
HP to survive.
It's a misleading part. How are you? Yeah, it's weird to hear you were you playing on hard or was it just medium?
No, I was playing on normal.
Yeah, the pulse rifle is like godly in easy and normal mode. But
And-
like,
and
because I play
I
hard and
know-
impossible, it's the most unreliable weapon in impossible.
And I
Is it
know,
just-
like, it
Does
sounds
it just
like
not do
I'm
damage in Impossible, Burke?
It doesn't hit the limbs with enough force before you get overrun.
Oh, okay. But like in medium, it's perfect. Anyway, go ahead, Titus.
look, I don't know if I'm, because I mean, I knew I had to hit the limbs and stuff. Like, I'm not dumb, and it's not like, I'm not like a perfect aim, but it wasn't like I was missing all my shots either. But like,
It might have been the fact
feel
that you were
like
playing. I was gonna say it might have been the fact that you were playing on controller, but Burke was also. Burke, you were playing on
Yeah.
Xbox, right?
I played it on the original 360.
Okay, I was playing with
Like-
mouse and keyboard, and half the time it felt like I was cheating.
like I don't
Wait, dude,
play with.
I've played it on PC recently. I don't think I missed. Ever.
It's
Like,
hard to, but it feels good.
I don't play a ton of FPSs, but I feel like when I do play them, I'm a pretty good shot. But despite that, it basically just felt like they were damage sponges, basically. Like, at least with that gun, like the
Pulse
the
rifle,
guns,
yeah. I
the
don't
guns
know.
I
People you
used
have
were-
to dismember. That's a hard set rule.
You
the
have
guns
to
I'm-
dismember. That's kind of the.
Yeah. The
Some
I
guns
mainly
you have to
use-
dismember. Yeah, what guns do you mainly use, Titus?
I ended up finding that the first gun they give you was the best gun, which was really disappointing.
What's it called? The plasma cutter?
The plasma cutter
the
is without a
iconic-
doubt the best gun.
Is that the
In
gun you
terms of-
rolled with, Burke?
Well, that's what the one gun achievement's for. So you have to beat the
Okay.
entire game with just the plasma cutter.
You
And for
upgrade
what
that.
it's
You
worth,
could-
it can one-shot most necromorph limbs when fully upgraded on the arms.
Yeah.
It has a 20-round clip, solid fire rate,
If you upgrade.
decent spread, and a decent reload. You should be able to clear out almost any room with a single clip.
If it's fully upgraded.
Yes.
Okay.
But even then,
that's right. You said you started it with the 10 extra nodes, didn't you?
I did 7, but then I sold all my ammo because I didn't need it.
Oh my gosh.
So I literally was selling ammo just to buy more power nodes.
I would
I
sell
was fully
some ammo.
upgraded by chapter 5.
Um,
On all stasis, kinesis, plasma cutter, and armor.
okay.
It was all done by chapter 5.
So, did you try all the, or Titus, did you try at least all of the weapons, or was
Yeah,
there
I
some
did.
weapons?
I did try all the weapons, but I
Okay.
ended up using the only 4 that were somewhat decent. And even
Can
then,
I-
one of
can
them
I-
was like not very good.
Hold on. I
Can
wanna
we
hear
try?
this
Hold
part.
on. Can we try to see if we say the exact same thing if I count down? On the count of 3, we're all gonna say the worst weapon in Dead Space 1. I'm gonna count down from 3. Okay, 3, 2, 1. It was a
Flame-
flamethrower.
Flamethrower.
Okay. The flamethrower is the worst weapon in all of Dead Space.
Really? Oh no! Honestly, I thought the flamethrower. Because here's the thing: there were so many times when you get those weird, like bloated guys who would like explode into little tiny like those little toys that slap up the wall with their limbs. Like that's
I
that's
noticed-
what came out of them.
I
And the
noticed.
Triangle
flamethrower
boys?
was perfect for them. Yeah,
noticed that was
flamethrower
good.
Perfect.
I noticed that was good for those, but it was only good for those. I also noticed I could just use the contact beam alternate mode where he like pounds on the ground. It does like a ground pound, and it like wipes out everything around him.
Oh, the contact beam is my boy. If I'm not stuck with a one gun run, I run 3 weapons: plasma cutter for general purpose, force gun to bully or push things off you, and contact beam to just say fuck this enemy in particular.
I don't know. I guess I didn't. Contact beam it could one shot those creepy baby enemies, even if you had it like not even fully upgraded. But I don't know. I still don't like. I think I just didn't like the charge, because in the chaos of everything, it's like, oh, this is not a reliable weapon to use. That's why I stuck with the pulse rifle. That thing got me through the game.
The contact beam was a good like big fu to like really strong enemies, but I didn't use it that often, unless I needed it for that. Otherwise, I pretty much stayed to the very first weapon they give you, and then when I needed besides that, I used flamethrower to play keep away, or for the little tiny dudes, and then the only other weapon that I thought was like genuinely like really good was like the line cutter.
The line
Just
gun,
because-
yeah.
Yeah,
The
just because
Ripper.
it had such a huge reach, area
I didn't-
of reach when you fire.
I didn't play
it
with
off.
the Ripper on this run.
So the Ripper to me if you're going for ammo conservation and efficiency,
Is good for
it is
that.
the only gun that can kill 2 to 3 necromorphs per shot.
Ooh. Oh, that's
The
right,
difference
because you
is-
can hold it. Yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing is they don't teach you this in the game, and I learned it on my own when I played it like my long time ago, is you can use your TK module to manually adjust the blade length.
Yeah.
So when you fully upgrade a Ripper with its duration time, you can take out 2 to 3 standard necromorphs with a single blade, and it feels so good. Just hear that.
All I know is that flamethrower was god awful. Titus, I don't know how you got through the game.
It's the
with
meme
it.
weapon. It is
It
the
does
literal
so-
meme weapon.
It does
It's a
so little
joke in the
damage.
speedrunner community.
And I remember because I remember trying to fight like one necromorph, and I kept flaming him. I was like, okay, how long am I gonna have to hold down the trigger before this guy dies?
Well, that's the thing. I didn't use the flamethrower to kill enemies. Like the flamethrower was like, it like if a bunch of guys were rushing me at once, it would damage them enough that they would stay away, like spray, pray, or it would kill the little ones en masse. Like it was more like, okay, I need to switch this. I'm like surrounded. I need to like keep
Get your
a
get
few
off
of
me
them
tool?
away. Yes, give me enough time to stay away long enough so I could dispatch the other guy and then get to them. It's not like I was like, oh yeah, flamethrower, time to slaughter some enemy. It was my keep away.
To me, the pulse rifle was just the go-to because like it fires so quickly and you get so much ammo from it throughout the whole game. Like those running guys you pull out your pulse rifle, you just immediately go for the legs, and then they're just toast. Yeah, I don't know why you didn't like the pulse rifle. I get why if it's not that good in like hard or impossible mode, but easy and medium, it's the go-to weapon.
Yeah, I don't know. It just didn't work well for
They
me.
made it even more busted in 2.
I was about to say, and two gave it the grenade launcher.
It just became the weapon.
Oh, it's so good though.
There was one really cute little detail that I really enjoyed, and that's that. I mean, obviously, right? Fire wouldn't work in space for the segments where you go out into the void of space.
That, yeah.
And fire doesn't go out. Like, obviously, science, but it's a video game, so I didn't even think, But then I realized, like, it didn't work, like, the first time I tried it, and I'm like, oh, that's smart. I mean, it sucks for me, but, I mean, I appreciate the attention to detail.
That's one of my favorite things about Dead Space in general, is it actually seems kind of smart for being a space horror game.
Some stuff I do like. I like how slow it is compared to Dead Space 2. I love Dead Space 2. I do like how Dead Space 1 is so just kind of like the main gun that the series is iconic for is just a welder tool. I love that. I love how simple that is. Isaac is an engineer. He's not a Marine.
His melee sucks in the first game, and that was half the fun.
His stomping sucks in the first game too. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen?
Yeah, it was
have you ever
bad.
tried to melee an enemy to get off you?
Oh my god! It just
Actually,
it never works.
In impossible mode, you actually have to use melee at certain points to actually have enough room to get the reload time. So you have to think like 2 seconds into the future before you swing your plasma cutter to knock someone off you.
It's funny because going off of Dead Space 2, which has the best stomping mechanics.
And
in a
melee,
video
you
game.
can straight up shoot a necromorph one time in the arm and then run and punch it to death.
But
Finally,
one detail,
a fighting method for me.
one detail that I thought was ridiculous, but on second thought, I think is actually quite funny, if meant in like a dark humor sort of way, is, as we all know, the pulse rifle's alternate fire is Isaac crouches down and the thing turns into like, it splits into 3 and shoots kind of like haphazardly all around him. And at first you think like, why would a military need that? Like, why the hell would you need that on a soldier's rifle?
Pressing fire.
But then it makes sense when you think about how like this is such a nightmare world that people live in. Like, I imagine the government's out there. We might as well spoil the game. Government's out there making markers, doing all this shit. I like to imagine that gun is what the government uses, like what soldiers use, like in the middle of riots or protests or something. It's like, you're getting overrun, just spray and pray. Don't even think about it. Just don't even think about it. And just thinking about that, like thinking about how this was made for like a military. This was made for like police or soldiers. It's like, oh my god, it's even funny. It's even funnier and makes the world seem even all the more brutal and terrifying, because it is. The Dead Space world is just this horrifying nightmare world where there's a religion of people who worship these aliens, and it's like, what is this?
Oh
What are
yeah,
we?
the
What world are we in?
Scientology XP, yeah.
It's basically Scientology. And then in Dead Space 3, you meet the head of it. We don't talk about Dead Space 3.
Don't come
Dead
after us,
Space 3.
Scientology people. It's basically just the subtext of the game. I'm not making a statement.
So you know what's crazy is if you
it's
read,
Unitology, Titus. It's not
we're kind of
Scientology.
digging around a little bit left and forth, but like, so when you
Yeah.
beat the game, it unlocks backlogs that you
What
can
is
read
that?
when you play the game again.
I've never done those. I've never looked at those.
There's a couple. One of them explains like the entire history of Scientology. There's another one that explains the entire history of the Ishimura, and then the third one, the third big
Burke,
one.
did
There's
you
two others.
Burke, did you say that on purpose?
What?
You called it Scientology? Was that on purpose?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Unitology. It's the same thing in my mind.
It's Scientology. It's a made up nonsense. Although apparently it is real. It is.
Anyway, the point is, there's a text file between Hammond and his employer. Like, who the fuck is Isaac Clarke and who the fuck is Kendra? And it explains Isaac's backstory, where his dad was an engineer, but he gets shipped off when he's at a pretty young age, and his mom becomes a unitologist head and like sells all their property and shit. And despite being like a really good tested engineer who could have made it into any Ivy League school no problem, he simply didn't have the money and had to get through scholarships and financial aid, some lesser known accredited university, and literally has been gallivanting the universe as a merchant marine trying to find his dad.
Hmm.
But my point is, like, it's this really intense thing, and you're like, oh my god, Isaac's been through so much trying to get his shit together.
And then he goes through.
And then the text log goes, yeah, we can't fight shit about Kendra. She's just recommended by our boss.
Yeah, there were. We'll talk about the various twists that happen throughout the game. One I straight up forgot about, but we can get to that.
That one twist where
Hold up. Confused Biscuit asked me to do a favor, and I've been doing this on stream of my end because they learned I could do a really good Resident Evil 4 merchant voice.
God.
So, stranger, the government's making markers. Grab your gun and start cutting.
I like it.
It's an okay merchant voice.
That is actually a really good. Yeah, that's a good impression. Do we want to talk about the horror? Do we want to? Because we talked about we pretty much talked about the gameplay.
I can talk about. Well, there's more gameplay that I really want to talk about. Like this is something we can really get into for me.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Gameplay elements that were fun besides weapons, like the cutter was really fun. I love the line gun, especially if you were tactical about it. With the force gun, because you could lay down a mine and then pull up the force gun to knock necromorphs and then stasis them so they couldn't run away from the mine, and you could kill the entire field in one go.
The stasis was very useful. I will say that.
Stasis is something I think more games need to do.
It was.
Yeah, I like using the force.
It was kind of fun, but I feel like the game would have been missing much without it. Like I feel like that was just the thing that. Because obviously all the stasis puzzles, I don't know about you guys, felt clearly like shoehorned in. Like, all right, we have this stasis feature. What can we do? It's like add in a door that's opening and closing really fast. It's like,
or like there's a spinning part that shouldn't be spinning as fast so it can lock in. Like, I mean, but that's half the fun though. Is like you're an engineer and you're like, well, the only way this is gonna work if I slow it down. It feels shoehorned, but to me, it also felt very logical. And it's
the telekinesis feels logical. It's like you're an engineer. It's like, oh, it's perfect. Like because you don't need a winch. You don't need you need to lift a giant crate. You don't need a forklift. You just point your hand at it and you can hover it around. Like that makes perfect sense. And they have that in the future. That makes total sense.
Well, stasis also makes sense for things like, hey, we can't shut off this big dangerous fuck all machine.
I don't know. It felt weird. It was a weird inclusion that clearly felt like just one of those things where they're like, we need another mechanic to add into the game. It's like, oh, why can't we just slow the enemies down?
Well, it also was for I always thought stasis puzzles were fun when they were used appropriately, which Dead Space 2 really got it done right, where there's a lot of puzzles where Simply, the mechanisms were too fast to operate on unless you slowed it down. But
The
that's the Dead Space 2 thing, which is also what
yeah,
Confused Biscuit was saying. Was their Dead Space adverb saying parents would hate this game? That's a
I
Dead
remember
Space
that.
2 campaign. It's your mom hates Dead Space 2, and I can
Um,
talk all day about this. But gentlemen, can I ask something gameplay wise that scared the shit out of me when I played it, and maybe it caught you off guard too? The tentacle grab scenes, the tentacle grabbing parts.
no, because well, first off, I remembered the game. And I think even when
Yeah.
I played the game the first time, it doesn't scare me because you'd walk through a corridor. It's like, oh, there's a fleshy hole in the wall that is in the lead up to this giant, fully rendered hallway that has no like load screens or doors in between it. Gosh, I wonder if a set piece. I wonder if a set piece might take place here.
The hole was made for me, Andy.
But
What made it scary was so like you played on mouse and keyboard, where it's a lot easier to deal
Yeah.
with. Titus
It's
can
all-
understand this pain where the focus.
it's not as easy as you'd think. In those in just regular gameplay, mouse and keyboard is very easy when you're being held up by something, because your mouse turns into like a rail shooter, and it's really awkward. Like it's really awkward to move the mouse around like that because it's hard to aim. I don't know how to describe it. Like it's super weird. So
But
even with
my
mouse
point
and
is,
keyboard, it's hard.
I have always found tentacle sections, even though I know they're coming, nerve-wracking because you have to accommodate where you're aiming for. And I found those death animations horrifying. So I never wanted Isaac to do
It's
that.
grabbed into
Yeah.
Those death animations are amazing.
And that was the second thing I want to talk about was I think Dead Space, one thing it did best, especially for gameplay, is making losing be entertaining or at least mortifying.
Was because I didn't die to them on this run. What did Dead Space 1 have the animation where the skull necromorph like
Pops the
jumps
head
into
off
his head?
of Isaac. And
Yeah.
Then, it's there.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I didn't die in
It's
my
so
run.
amazing.
I didn't die in my hard run, but that's also because this is probably my 50th run of the game. If I had died, it probably was my fault. Not the game's fault at this point.
I don't even remember when I died.
I died once, and I was because I was being super ballsy when you had to walk through the asteroid field when it's coming at you in chapter 4. I got super ballsy. I think I can make this, and then no.
God, you just
that asteroid section. I remember that.
I hate the 2 times. It was 2 times, right? Where they make you shoot the asteroids. That was ass. I hated it so much. Oh no.
I love the turret sections. They're so nerve-wracking.
But
it just felt like there wasn't enough like time to like hit every. I had to switch to mouse, like whatever. I had to switch to mouse when those sections came because like straight up I was like, if I use the game controller for this section, I'm never gonna get past this. Never. Like it just doesn't move fast.
There is a trick to beating it. You only use one of the 2 cannons. Otherwise, it overheats the damn thing.
I think I figured that out very quickly. I'm like, oh wow, this overheats. But what I like about that section when you're running through the Star Wars trench run is how like you get to the first piece of cover and you think it's like, oh, this is just red light, green light. And then kind of from the bottom of your camera, you see one of the necromorphs just like kind of walks up on you because you're in outer space and it's all quiet. You can't hear him. That scared the absolute shit out of me because he just walked right up there. Like I'm hiding behind this cover and there he is. He's right there.
And then if you push him out, you just see him turn into red paste.
One of those moments where I'm like, the game really expects me to deal with both of these. And I should say, like, by that point in the game, I was trying to save a bunch of my power nodes. I don't know why. I think I just like the idea of saving them all and then being able to, like, splurge and upgrade, like, my weapon or my armor. So I didn't have a lot of oxygen. I still had, like, the default amount by that point in the game.
Oh, the 70 seconds? That's so brutal.
And so I'm like, oh god, what am I even supposed to do? And so you're constantly thinking like, should I run for it? Should I sprint for it? But that asteroid section, even that whole area, like when you're walking through that main, that kind of, I don't even know what to describe it, like that main bridge view with all the windows and stuff. Like asteroids are hitting and it's constant, and then you have to fight that big guy. It's just
brute?
it is just endless. That is what Dead Space is to me, is just constant exhaustion. Unrelenting. That's a very good way to describe it. Isaac's life has just been unrelenting. I feel bad
You know what
for
the
him.
other crazy thing is? Isaac's like 48 when the game starts.
My
Is he
God.
48? Is he?
He's in
Is that
his
how old he is?
40s. He's in his mid fucking 40s when you read the dossier.
Hmm.
He's like, oh, he's like got a girlfriend of like reliable years. Is kind of getting into like the under age of his system. Yeah. But it's just like, I just love it. Like, like Master Chief's like what 30, but like in his prime all the time.
No, I
Mario
think
is only 26.
I think Master Chief's old, right?
Now
'Cause he
he's
was around. Now he's old. Yeah, I guess. Well, I mean,
but like
I don't know. I
Isaac's
was gonna
is
say lower.
and just trying to get his shit together.
I'll say this: playing Dead Space 1 as well as Dead Space 2, I think I prefer Silent Isaac. I think I prefer when he does not talk, because he's a little more likable when he doesn't talk like a complete schizophrenic.
Would you not be one after everything he experienced?
Yeah,
My favorite. There's
he has a mouth and he must scream.
There's two. Well, first off, he's in such a terrifying situation. It's like, again, it's like Samus. Like, you have nothing to say. Like, people wouldn't just be talking to them, or maybe you would be talking to yourself if you're going insane.
I talk to
really like
myself. I
Isaac's
talk to
art
myself
factor right there.
regularly.
My favorite two lines that Isaac has ever said, and I think one is from 2 and one is from 3. I'm pretty sure this one's from 2, is where he says "fuck you" and "fuck your marker." Berg,
One of
you
the
probably
best
know that one.
lines.
It's the best line.
One of the best lines hand ever.
And then my other favorite line is in Dead Space 3, is when he's yelling at who's the military
John?
guy that's who's the
No.
military guy who's your partner in that?
Carver.
He says like, "Carver, we have to get to the machine before the moon does." Or he says something like that. And I'm like, it's like, that's what Dead Space has become.
One of my favorite lines from Dead Space 3 was, good men intend well, they just don't always do well.
Oh, dude, just like the IRS.
Oh no. Oh no.
I like the end of the Dead Space 3 DLC is where they show up at Earth, and then all those giant necromorph moons show up, and that's where the game has left off since. That's why we're
Even
never.
the Joker doesn't fight the IRS.
That's why we're never.
It's true.
That's why we're never ever getting a Dead Space sequel, because of that DLC.
Well, so actually, since you kind of talked about this, Bacon Maple Bar and I have talked about this at length for many nights about what Dead Space 4 could have and should have been based on that DLC.
I don't know. I think if you were trying to follow that up, I'm guessing it would involve something like apocalyptic, maybe. Actually, explain to me what your idea is, and then I'll explain what I would want to say.
The whole idea is Earth does get fucked, and the only way you can beat the moons is to basically make your own badass planet cracker ship.
Oh.
And then basically the whole idea is you go back and somehow the Ishimura didn't get destroyed and tightened when it did its thing. And the end piece would be you just retrofit the Ishimura to kill the moons.
A moon cracker. Yeah. Yeah, that would tie in. That's
and then you do like space raiding,
idea.
and you could do like the Metal Gear Solid 5, like you send other people who are competent and have survived the necromorph groups to like get resources and components to rebuild the ship piece by piece and make it this badass like Mad Max piece of shit ship to just kill the moons. And that's how the game should have ended.
But to me,
I love Majora's Mask.
Titus says it's moon. It's a bunch of moons that are planet sized. That's the boss you fight in Dead Space 3, and then more show up at the end of the DLC.
How do you kill a moon?
With a planet cracker ship.
No,
kill a moon with a gun.
Do you know what? Burke, do you remember how you kill the moon? Is you're in like the final boss stage, and you're
don't fucking remind me.
You're grabbing markers with your telekinesis. Markers, like bunch of markers floating around, and you're using those
eye holes.
You're using those as projectiles. Dozens of markers.
You know the phrase jumping the shark? That was literally when I'm like, this is beyond jumping the shark.
This is like making fun. This is like a parody of Dead Space.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, it felt almost satirical.
My favorite part of Dead Space 3 is when they turned it into a cover-based military shooter. That was my favorite part of Dead Space 3.
Oh, you mean when it was not Gears of War?
When they gave everybody guns. Do you remember that? like ballistic assault rifles. I remember that.
Anyway, we're losing Titus here.
I cannot believe they turned Dead Space into that one episode of Yu-Gi-Oh! Where he tells his monster to destroy the moon itself, and that's how he wins. That's literally what they do.
Golem when he's fighting Mako?
Yeah, literally. Giant soldier of stone, destroy the moon! Which doesn't make any sense within the context of the game, by the way. And that's literally just what they did. This is what they. That's just what they did in Dead Space, apparently.
Okay, someone's asking why we like horror games more, but I think that's only going to apply to me.
I'd say if you were to go for a Dead Space reboot, you'd have to go through a reboot. There's no way, because like I don't like the idea of Dead Space becoming this planetary scale. Like we have to go get the Ishimura. By the way, I forget what happened in Dead Space 2. They blew up the Ishimura in that, right? That's how they blew up.
It's kind of ambiguous. So it's Titan Station, right?
Which Titan itself was like blown up. Like Titan became just this floating like space station.
The debate kicks in because it's that government sector gets cut off from the mainland of the station. You use the Ishimura to line the tracks up briefly for like a single second to let the tram where Ellie and Strauss to cross the bridge to get into government sector is. And then after that, the Ishimura does its thing. It continues drifting off away from the main station. There is a post-credit scene saying there's nothing left of the Titus station at all.
But the Ishimura could be.
Yeah, but the Ishimura also got undocked because of what Isaac had to do.
So Titus, in case you're not aware, so end of Dead Space 1, obviously you leave the Ishimura and like you don't ever come back to it again. So in Dead Space 2, they've went and grabbed the Ishimura, and it's now like docked in Titan Station. Titan Station, which is the planet Titan that they overmined, and so now it's just a bunch of floating asteroids like interconnected by this like sci-fi sort of space station.
Yeah, it's Krypton.
The sprawl is what they call it.
And so like one of the levels is you actually revisit the Ishimura, and it's like a bunch of.
It was the first time I ever had to put a game down.
And because obviously people have gone through it, and so they've like, there's like all the I forget what it's like. They're like all these scientists who've gone through it, and there's like, it's weird. It's like it's been put into a quarantine zone.
Basically,
so you have like all these white curtains everywhere. Like everything is like quarantined off. It's a pretty creepy level, and it is. I'm pretty sure in Dead Space 1 it was kind of just forgotten about. Like you're not on the Ishimura anymore. You're on the planet, and then the game ends. So it's nice that they tied it in to Dead Space 2.
It was
don't know why you wouldn't just blow it up to make sure nothing spreads, but go off.
Here's the thing. I'm sorry, my nerd is kicking in.
Burke, do you want to explain the reason why they're keeping the markers in the Dead Space sequels?
Oh God, you want me to? Oh, right, hold on. You want me to go that far back? Okay. So
I just realized, by the way, Doom 2016 literally stole the plot and premise.
It's the same fucking plot
from Dead Space.
It's the same fucking plot.
I just realized that. That's amazing. That's amazing.
So, it's like the year 2300 something.
Oh God, I didn't ask for this long of a.
You asked for why they're making markers, and I'm giving you the reason
why they're keeping the markers.
Because they generate infinite energy.
They generate infinite energy, Titus. They're like infinite energy generator, just like the hell portals in Doom. It's like hell gives us energy. Let's just leave these portals open.
Anyway, that happens.
I don't even know where to begin with that statement. Just that statement alone.
Ishimura is also contaminated with a bunch of basically marker remnants. So they take the Ishimura back to kind of clean it up, repurpose the ship because it's like a multi-billion-dollar project. You don't just scrap it.
It's like one of the it's a giant mining ship.
It's
money is
the
fake.
Most prominent
they can totally
ship.
Scrap it.
No,
Anyways,
they could. You could scrap it, but then you literally lose out on the only ship that could fully harvest a planet, a full Earth-sized planet within a week. There is no other ship in its class size. That's one of the big things about the Ishimura, and that's in the documentation in the first game.
Well, and they literally say it in the first cutscene.
But I'm saying like they really go into
planet
like
cracker of her class.
They go into like even the second biggest one. It would take like a month to do what the Ishimura can do in a week.
So yeah, like that makes sense. Like you would try to scavenge it.
So the CEC can't loot. The company that owns the ship is like, well, we can't fucking take that hit.
So we'll just risk
It's full of
widespread death.
We'll just
Well,
bring this ship full of alien
So there's several
zombies.
audio logs in Dead
No,
Space
that's
2.
believable. I've lived through like recent years. I completely believe this. I completely believe this.
I've watched way too much Bright Sun films to think that any historical ship, no matter how important, would be saved. I think realistically they would just salvage it. They'd give up.
As they were trying to salvage it, is what they were trying to do. But when they got it back on board, the scientists were like, "Oh, hey, there's a bunch of weird ass goo on the floor." So when the marker got destroyed, basically every necromorph and anything related to the necromorph DNA just became Ivan oozed. It just melted.
Yeah, that's a throwback reference.
Did they say that in Dead Space 2? Because I don't remember that at all.
Primordial ooze. It literally becomes a ooze that reanimates in the presence of another marker signal. It's in the audio log before you go back into the contamination room, which is one of my favorite fights in the original Dead Space.
So it just becomes a Marvel symbiote.
Yeah, and then there's several other logs of like the goo is semi-sentient because the janitors are like, I can hear something fucking around in the vents. I'm not staying around here, Gohan. I'm getting the fuck out of here.
Smart man.
That's kind of hilarious. I always thought Dead Space 1 and 2 were on similar levels, but the more we talk about them, the more I'm thinking that maybe Dead Space 1 was just the one that they did right, and Dead Space 2 was well made, but just as bonkers as Dead Space 3.
All I'm hearing here is
Dead
that
Space 2 is what Resident Evil 4 is to the Resident Evil franchise. A lot of great ideas, good set pieces, but it gets a little jumpy of the shark when it comes to the storytelling.
I would say Dead Space 1 is pretty much Resident Evil 4. I think the reason you're saying that is because you want to make the comparison that Dead Space 3 is RE5. Which it is. It is, yeah. But I think it's also like Dead Space 1 it's much more restrained than the others, but it's still pretty crazy. Like at the end, you're literally fighting like a giant necromorph.
The hive mind, which if you look at the audio files, is an elephant, a whale, and a baby crying at the same time, overlaid, and then I think one of them's reversed. I listened to every documentary that Dead Space had when it came out.
Yeah, you must have been a Dead Space fan. Did you watch those like animated shorts that they had?
Listen, I knew how to write in the fucking unitologist language. When it had like Rosetta Stone, I learned how to write in it because they had competitions on Twitter back in the day to get a life-size plasma cutter for it. And I was second in line. I was just like 2 seconds behind this other motherfucker, and I will never let him down.
Here's another sad question. Did you Burke, you seem like the kind of person who would have bought the Dead Space Wii game.
Actually, I own it, and I'm holding it right now.
Okay. I rest my case. What were
you were not expecting me just to fully say yes, were you?
No, I was expecting you to, because I'm like, he's such a Dead Space nerd. I bet he owns, what is it called? Dead Space Extraction?
Extraction, and it's actually a lot of fun. I think it's a really fun on-rail shooter game.
I bet he fucking owns that one.
I could believe that the formula for Dead Space games would work on Wii as long as they polished up the controls enough.
Well, what they did was they just made it an on-rail shooter, so you just had to like,
yeah.
Yeah, I can see
basically
that
it was a Resident Evil Umbrella Chronicles knockoff, where it kind of supplements the original Dead Space story. So every reason that you have to fix something on the Ishimura is because of the crew that survives.
It's Extraction.
Yeah.
Wait, is it a prequel?
It's technically a prequel, because it also.
Isn't it inversed? Don't you start in the colony and then you
start in the colony and you work your way to the Ishimura? Yeah, and it's also got like some fun new guns, like the PSEC pistol, like the thing you only see once in the actual game, where in chapter 10, yeah, where you're going through the barracks and there's that girl that laughs before blowing her head off.
Yeah.
When you get the navigation key, that pistol, you can use that in Extraction.
I'm glad you brought that moment up because when we get to the horror part of this discussion, I do have a strong statement to make on that that topic.
So, last gameplay statement for me is I love the gameplay, especially when you play with the guns like the Force gun, where you can just bully necromorphs into corners and it's really funny.
I didn't like
But
the camera. It was hard to properly get a view of
I
everything. with
I
the camera.
had because I used an FOV mod and it was very easy to see everything that was going on, almost to the point where it kind of made stuff less scary. And I added a bunch of stuff to it, not like full blown like mods, more of just patches, like fan made community patches. Like I had one for mouse look that helped the mouse sensitivity. I think that was the way to play the game. There were still some problems, it was still pretty good. I'd say gameplay wise, I just liked because I mentioned it to you, Burke, how you probably knew this way before me, but how the developers Visceral were they were thinking of making System Shock 3, and I'm still not sure how they were gonna go about doing it. I don't know if they were working. I don't know who owns the rights to System Shock, so I don't know if they were planning on doing that. Like we're gonna make a System Shock 3 game, or just a System Shock spiritual successor.
yeah,
But then they played Resident Evil 4, and they're like, actually, let's just make Resident Evil 4 in space. Which is exactly what it is. Even like down to like going into the store and buying ammo and weapons and like credits. It's like, oh, this is literally ripped from RE4.
it
But I do
was
like that.
It was a seamless transition for someone's first horror game, RE4, into
Yes.
Dead Space. It was a seamless transition into what I would consider proper horror.
I quite like, because you were talking about how like Dead Space works, like in Dead Space Extraction, like it works as an on rails shooter. But like to me, the just half of the fun with Dead Space 1 is being able to just backtrack and explore these huge environments, as well as like slowly like collecting ammo and resources and getting enough credits to like buy, upgrades or ammo or all this other stuff. Like that was the fun, half the fun of the game for me, was me constantly juggling with my money of like, all right, well I have 10,000 credits, I can buy a power module, and I can upgrade myself by 1 point, but then I could also use that money for ammo and stuff like that. Like that's where the fun of the game came for me on my second playthrough.
Gentlemen, I want to let Titus have the floor for a second, but I do want to bring this up because this was a revolutionary idea for games at the time. For controller, it'd be the right click, but the indicator that lets you know where you need to go.
Yes.
That was like one of the first times it's ever been implemented.
Really?
Yeah, one of the very first times ever in a game.
I mean, I know games had waypoints, but
I'm saying one of the first times that it could just straight up tell you what path you need to take.
I'll
I was
say,
gonna say surely waypoints, but no, that's a clear distinction.
I've mentioned it before. The best part about that feature is you're walking down a hallway. There's 2 ways to go. You check which direction you got to go. It's like, I got to go right. I'm gonna quick go left to see if I'm missing any. And
there's always a
secrets. Yeah. Yep. That's all you use it for. So though it does make the game a little easy, but I don't mind that.
I always thought that was a cool idea because in Dead Space 2, there's a point where it doesn't update anymore and it triggers a cutscene where Isaac's girlfriend tells him, like, well, if you don't know the way to go, I can show you the way. And it shows her messing with the location indicator to make a new path.
Weird.
Like, there's so many little cool details they've done with that thing over the course of the games. I just wanted to bring that up before we moved on to the horror aspect. I do think the locator is one of the coolest things ever made because I get lost very easily in horror games.
Yeah, no, that was a helpful. I appreciated that. Because half the time I didn't know where I was going either.
It surely helped Titus in his quest to get more ammo, which I'm guarantee he had plenty of.
Yeah. I definitely did.
So literally my ammo situation was so bad I had to keep putting ammo into the safe. I never bought ammo once, but by the end of the game I went through half of my stuff in stock, so I still had like 200 rounds of plasma cutter at the end of the game in storage after beating the boss.
I kept having to just, especially early on in the game, eventually getting those suit upgrades, you have so much inventory space that doesn't even matter anymore. But like early in the game, that was such a terrible feeling of like, I gotta leave this flame fuel behind for a single like round of pulse rifle. Like I don't know, Titus, how you had so little ammo, unless you were just shooting wildly and not aiming.
Aiming for the body.
Yeah, were you aiming center mass?
I mean, I'm used to doing that, so maybe a little bit, but like, I caught on pretty quick. You gotta hit the limbs.
Well, they
Uh,
say that like twice.
Dude,
they
the
they spell it
fucking
out to you.
user interface.
I forgot about that. How they like just they really hit you on the head with it of like, don't aim at the body, aim at the
Dude,
limbs.
it's 4 times, including one part where the game stops you, makes you read the green icon, push
Yes,
the
yeah.
A button to
Oh,
make it go away before you can move. Because there's a
it's
log when you go
so
down the elevator that says, "Oh, we killed one. We cut off their limbs."
there's the audio
Hammond
log,
tells you in person.
which
There's a
should be
second
it.
log that tells you it.
That first audio log should be it. It should just say that, and it's
Oh,
like,
I
okay,
didn't mind Hammond also telling it because what if you didn't pick up the log because you're just a fucking weirdo?
then that's your fault. It's like the people in Elden Ring who skip the tutorial and then complain why the game's too hard. Like that's your fault. You're
I
you're
I
throwing
saw an
yourself in that
article.
pit.
I saw an image of an article this morning that said, if I remember correctly, it was something along the lines of,
An image of an
uh,
article.
Kirby and the new Kirby game, Kirby the Forgotten Lands or whatever, is the antithesis to Elden Ring, and here's why that's a good thing, or something like that. Like, they're not even trying anymore. Like, these journalists aren't even trying to sound credible anymore. Like,
I if I've always wanted a developer to just make a completely different game for like the easiest mode, just to see how many when game reviews come out, it's like, well, I played the new Halo, and the entire level was a pink bouncy castle, and I don't know why. I don't know why this was the game. It's like, well, because you chose the easiest difficulty.
here's the big brain move. If I ever made a game, I would just put in a journalist mode as the easy mode.
There was a game. I
Just
forget
skip
what.
the credits.
There was an indie game that I think it was. I was gonna say IGN, but realistically, who else would have done it? It was a game where you could only get the true ending if you played on a difficulty of normal or above. And so a guy, the IGN reviewer, played on the easiest difficulty and then docked points from the game for his own words, not having a proper ending. And the developer had to reach out to him and say, like, no, that's because you clearly played on easy. Otherwise, you would have gotten the ending. You would have gotten the ending cutscene. And the guy, the journalist was arguing with him. The reviewer was arguing with him, saying, "No, I played on normal. I didn't get this. I didn't get this ending." Like, turned out he played on easy and tried to pass it off. But
I mean, no one
many such
actually
cases.
takes journalists seriously for gaming anymore.
There's, yeah, I forget what website it was. It was like, because I took a terrible game writing class. I say
6.8
terrible.
out of 10, too much
was-
water, you know.
Oh my god. It was I took a class and we had to read from these articles, these quote unquote game not even journalists, just like these writers, like, you know, people who are responsible for writing, you know, about the games industry, and they're all hacks. Like I mentioned him before. Patrick Klepek is up there. If you don't know who he is, don't bother looking him up. He's up there as like one of the biggest scumbags in the industry. Anyway, like you look at this resource, which is supposed to be like a collection of all of these amazing people in the industry, and you can see their articles and you can see how many people have like downloaded them and read them and commented on them, and it's like barely any of them hit double digits. It's like nobody cares about these articles. Nobody cares about these reviews. That's why they have to make clickbait headlines. Otherwise, no one's gonna click them. Which is why I thought it was funny when you said you said you saw an article, then you had to correct yourself. I saw a picture of an article.
Well, yeah, because I'm not looking at articles.
I'm not looking at
like,
that. Yeah.
If I wanted someone other than my own or my friends' opinions on a game or movie, I just look for like someone on YouTube whose opinion I somewhat regard with some level of interest. You know, like
People don't go read Jason Schreier's opinion on Elden Ring. They go to YouTube and they watch Angry Joe, or they watch their favorite streamer play it. They watch Iron Mouse play it. Like,
based.
but like that's what they do. They don't fucking go to IGN. Oh, I'm gonna see what my random IGN critic wrote about this game that he probably never played. Anyway, that was a fun tangent.
Even then that's risky, because then you got people like Video Game Donkey who's like, what game has turn-based, or like it's from Japan, like 2 out of 10 worst game.
But I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Donkey. I like how his videos are made. I thought his Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee videos were hilarious.
You know what I mean? Like
I get that, but however, that is with people like him, you know what their expectations are for a video game, because everybody has personal tastes.
Well, yeah.
It's all right to have that, and when you read a random review on IGN, you have no idea who's. It's the guy who could be reviewing the latest Pokemon game could just be a guy who's never played Pokemon.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You have to like have a wide array of people who you listen to like opinions from, because like I wouldn't go to like somebody who reviews only Nintendo games on their channel for like opinions on like Elden Ring. Like that, that would be stupid.
Or like, but like, you know what I mean? It's
no,
it's
I
good
get what you mean. Yeah,
you have individuals who have their own preferences and who you can recognize as having preferences. Like a guy I follow, I'm like, oh, he's an FPS guy. He loves FPS games. So if he plays a non-FPS game and he likes it, it's like, ooh, that actually means something. That means like I might enjoy it too. Like that's all I'm getting at. But yeah, should we want to move off of games journalists? We need to do a whole stream about that. That'd be funny. Although we'd get canceled very quickly, I'm afraid.
But I want to talk
book
about the horror
by Satoru Iwata.
They'd make a article about us like they did for Iron Mouse.
Bro, I'm fine with that. We'll go viral. I'm fine with that.
I have to say, if someone got angry enough at our...
I like how Titus said we'd go viral. It's like, do you really think anyone's reading IGN or
Hold on. No, here's the thing.
Websites?
You're right.
Listen.
We're not
any press is good press. And even 50 people read that.
Bro, if
that means at least 10 people, even 10, 5% or 10%, that'd be 5 people that would be like, oh, they might be onto something here.
Dude, if 5 people, like I got 5 extra viewers per stream because of that, dude, I'd lose it. That'd be crazy.
Anyway, let's not talk about how we're getting canceled.
Moving on.
Moving on. I don't even know where we are. Are we talking about horror?
We're on horror now.
Okay. Was it appropriately scary?
Yes.
No.
Okay, moving on. You weren't scared once, Titus?
Here's the thing. I think it was kind of edgy, and it tried really hard to be scary. But
I forgot
10 times
because
you don't like scary.
You don't like the edginess. Did you think it was super edgy when the unborn fetuses were turning into necromorphs? Did you think that part was scary?
Yeah, that was. I didn't think it was scary. I was just like, oh, really? This okay? Like I was like, I like walked into the room with the feet, and I'm like, I know exactly where this is going.
I noticed I noticed. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I keep interrupting you.
And then they actually came out, and I'm like, yep. Like I mean, I don't know. Like, okay, here's the thing. Like, there were a few times I did get I was discomfort. Like the one level where you're in the like 360 chamber with the giant flesh mouth thing. That was creepy. Yeah, that thing was creepy. I will give you. Or like the first time, like you find somebody and they like die in front of you. That was kind of scary. I mostly just felt bad for them more than scary, but that was kind of scary. But like literally after the second time that happened, because it happened like at least once every level, I was just like, all right, I hear a human voice that's not mine or one of the people talking to me on comms. All right, cue them showing up, cue random injury, cue them saying something really depressing, and then killing themselves seconds before I can actually help them. Boom. All right, we're done.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
One of my favorite audio logs was of someone waking up and she's like, where am I? It's like, where's everybody?
You doctor?
Oh yeah, are you doctor? It's like, no, wait, you're the person who killed that other person. And then it's just comedic screaming. I thought that was funny.
Like
going back to those babies. We're talking about killing babies, by the way. It was really weird how like halfway through the game, you just kind of forget that like these enemies, I'm just shooting babies. I didn't realize. I didn't remember they changed it for Dead Space 3, didn't they?
They couldn't have a logical reason because, like in Dead Space 1 and 2, babies were used basically for harvesting stem cells, so that you could like regenerate limbs and all that. Bro. But in Dead Space 3, it was a military installation before that practice became widespread.
So they had
it was
to turn
basically
it to dogs.
Yeah.
Which I thought at the time was just. I mean, I kind of get the impression that was them trying to tone it down because they were clearly trying to make. They were clearly trying to make Dead Space 3 it seemed like they were trying to make that game less edgy. Like you weren't shooting at necromorphs anymore. You're shooting at like mainly human soldiers. Like it became Call of Duty. But also Dead Space 2 had the infamous daycare scene, Burke.
I'm about to say, you get to shoot up a school in Dead Space 2. Straight up.
What?
The fucking suicide bomb babies.
Yeah.
Literally one of the creepiest.
My God, that's
there's
horrific.
literally
What the hell?
Titus,
Hold on.
there is literally a scene in Dead Space tradition. You're in a hallway or a room, and there's a pane of glass blocking you from another room where you are just waiting for the cutscene to end. There's a woman who's like ushering a baby into her arms, and the baby is like clearly deformed and glowing like a bomb, and she picks it up and it fucking explodes and kills both of them.
It paints the entire window red.
Yeah.
And it makes Isaac go like, ugh.
Ugh. Yeah. That's what Dead Space 2 did. We got to make you play Dead Space 2. Titus, are you doing that on purpose, by the way? The way you're shaking your head?
No, I'm actually shaking my head.
That's amazing. I love when you look down, you have like a frown.
Yeah.
I love that.
Not to mention, there's a set piece where you go into a school gymnasium, you try to hack the door, and you get overrun by basically like 6-year-olds called the Pack.
Oh my God.
So you just shoot up a bunch of school kids and a teacher, while a school play music plays in the background.
Is that the one where they have like a play set up?
Yeah.
There's like all the
It's
cardboard.
the play.
Yeah.
And you have to punch the sun at one point to get through it.
Oh yeah, I remember these guys. Ugh. But Dead Space 2, what was I call them like velociraptors. They were like
the stalkers.
The stalkers, because they would screech. They had like
Jesus
that really.
Christ! I know this is supposed to be about Dead Space 1, but Dead Space 2 really cranked up like the necromorph scare factor to a. I am still scared of stalkers, even on speed runs.
What they would do, Titus, is there's this one move they did, where they would peek around the corner to look at you, or they'd like peek up above a chest high wall and look at you, and then they'd hide back down, so you get a glimpse of them, but they would
hell no.
they would just look at you from a distance, and then occasionally they would charge at you. Which is,
all right,
or
you know
if
you know that gif
and they
of the
look
guy
like
who
little
like looks at
velociraptors.
you know the guy who like the gif of the guy who looks at the camera and he just makes the sideways peace sign and he fades out. That's how I
That's
feel
you.
about that
Yeah.
situation. I'm not even getting close. Listen, I can run 25 miles per hour max speed, and I will use that to my advantage. I don't have to
pretty sure they
outrun
can
them.
run
I
that
just have to
fast,
outrun
too.
one of you.
Stalkers
And-
run stupidly quick.
They're little velociraptors.
I just have to outrun Andy, and I'll be fine.
Not to mention, their scream is terrifying. The first time you're not ready for it, it's so disorienting.
I love it. I love how creepy that stuff is.
I just feel like okay, I walk in and I see the lady who's like laughing, and then she like puts a gun up to her head. I immediately know what's gonna happen. I don't react like I don't know what they were expecting me to react. My only reaction was to actually roll my eyes. It's just like,
So then-
all right, let's move on.
So that one's a little more. I get that one, but like I don't know if you were listening to audio logs throughout the game, but starting in chapter 3, when you go into engineering, you start hearing the tales of Jacob Temple.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about him trying to find his girlfriend, who you get her side of the stories when you go to hydroponics, where you fight the Leviathan. And then you find stories of their logs interchangeably as you go on till chapter 10, where fucking Dr. Kine, that piece of shit, not Dr. Kine, the other one, the one that with the shitty beard.
The evil one that creates
the evil one, but he stabs Jacob in the
forehead. We need to talk about that too, but go ahead.
Like that like most of the time I'm like, whatever, it's someone killing, but that was like, that's Jacob. I have a personal investment in this.
It's interesting, it's interesting to hear, Burke, how you were invested like in the background characters. Like you were straight up like invested in all the background lore and stuff.
I was upset there was no way for me to act. I was upset there was no way for me to actually even attempt to help anyone. Like you see these people and there's literally nothing you could do to even attempt to help them. Like, I have a gun. I see the necromorph coming up. There's no reason why I can't aim and shoot. It just won't let me. It makes me sit here and watch. Like, it's just, ugh.
It's like the guy in chapter 9 that's stuck under the gravity panel that fucked up, and like,
oh my god, I
was the one part I was like, Isaac, put a bullet in his head, for fuck's sake. That man's not going to get out alive. Like, put him out of his misery.
Just crap again, and I hate those fast necromorphs.
I didn't like the fast necro. They were
like run right up to you. It's almost like a meme. It's like,
if anything,
the worst
they
part
were,
hilarious.
if anything, they were scary, not because they themselves were scary, just because it made me like anxious having to like deal with them.
Well, it changes your priority.
Yeah.
It's like you see you're fighting a necromorph and you see another equally slow necromorph crawl out of like a vent, and you're like, okay, I can focus on this guy first and wait for that other guy. You're fighting like a behemoth or something, and then a speedy guy comes running out. It's like, oh shit, I gotta focus on him first.
Did anyone else panic when the regenerator first came back the second time? I was like,
I was about to ask about that. First off, he just comes out of nowhere. I like how they didn't build that up. It's just like,
no, they have. They were hinting at him since you get to engineering.
Well, you knew. I mean, they hinted at the fact that he clearly wasn't dead because he frees him, and you're like,
but you could see him. He was sharpening his claws when you go down the elevator.
You
do.
I forgot about that. I guess they did tease it. Yeah.
Listen, just because I know this game so well.
But then he just shows up. That like there was no like build up cutscene, and specifically it's that area where you have to fucking move like the bunk beds with the telekinesis. So you're like trying to maneuver through this creepy area that's really hard to get through because you have to constantly move all this shit out of your way. I do not.
The regenerator scares me to this day.
It's so creepy because there's nothing you can do, and that's classic like Resident Evil right there. An enemy.
Titus, what are your opinion on this? You've been quiet about this one.
What do you think about the regenerator, Titus?
You're talking about the one that you literally can't kill unless you get in specific, like you have to freeze it and stuff. That
you have to freeze it and then you have to burn it.
And then burn it with a fucking Starship engine.
Yeah, I thought it was satisfying to kill it.
Mine glitched out when I got when I burned him.
Mine did too. I had to do it again.
I had him stasis locked, and then he was like on his legs. I think what happens is when he does the regeneration, he's invulnerable. When he does that animation where he like slides around and regrows his limbs. So like I hit the fire and I thought I was done. I put my mouse and keyboard down. I'm like, I did it. And I see him just get back up. The engine stops and he just walks towards me. I'm like, what? I killed him. But the game didn't seem to think so.
The game said no.
No, I don't think I will. I thought if anything, the regenerator was the scariest thing in the game because that was like some Mr. X shit, you know. Like I haven't played Resident Evil, but I know, you know, like that was something like,
give it to you.
Like, oh god, you just like I don't want to see this guy again. Come on, bro. Like, I gotta. I'm like,
then that means you just have to run. Like there's no like solving that.
Yeah, no.
You have to like shoot his legs off and then keep running because ammo efficiency wise, it's just best to take the legs and leave.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you accidentally, like if you're me, you accidentally shoot off one of his arms as you're doing that. It's like, oh shit, now he's regenerating, and I just have to do it all over again.
Or just stasis and hope to God you can run away fast enough.
Those Goliaths, the big guys that would like
the brutes
charge at you, or brutes, whatever they're called, like the big
brutes.
Armor.
Or here's a deep cut for you. If you watch a YouTuber called Vash12349, he calls them Macho Man Andes.
Ooh, Macho Man Andes.
Yeah.
Yeah, brother.
Those got weirdly hard for whatever reason. Like I noticed that at a certain point I was just unable to rip apart their limbs. Like I was unable to just shoot their arm off. I don't know what was going on there. It's
precision shooting. It's actually a really narrow hitbox. If you want me to be like, well, actually, what you're supposed to do is stasis them, or hit them in the arm twice when you make them curl up, stasis them, then shoot their back leg, and then run away enough where they'll spit rocks at you. You can kinesis the rocks and throw them back at them till they're dead.
I didn't even know they spit rocks.
You have to run away from them.
Burke, there was that one section where you're on the colony and you're moving that marker all the way through.
Yeah.
And one of them spawns, and like there's that one section where I was running across the bridges, like basically like a ring around the rosy, and I just hear him charging behind me. I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna have a chance to turn around and shoot at him. He's so close.
The other enemy type I want to talk about, the wall guardians and the scarecrows.
Scare the wall. I know what you're talking about. The wall guardians, like the guys who shot out the stupid tentacles.
Oh,
Did
I
you
hated
ever
those things.
punch those things?
No, I did not.
I'd like fire like a crap ton. It took me a while to figure out how to kill them, but like
You
I would
shoot at
just like that. Yeah, you cut off the tentacles, but like
It's really wild. The first times they introduce it, there's a fuel canister next to or near them that you could always throw to insta kill them.
I noticed that the first time. The other times I would just hide from a distance and be like, all right, I'm picking off all of your
But
tentacles.
if you try
one
to
by
get
one.
close to shoot them, they have an insta kill move.
yeah, that's
Like
what I was gonna say. Like they'll just kill me the instant I try and get by. So it was like,
What was their insta kill move? I was always.
It's just a tentacle that whips out and basically flicks your head off, comically so.
It's amazing.
But the
Gabe said
scarecrows
no.
scared me. The not Slender Man.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about.
Oh, there's
The ones that have the whale sound effect when they walk in.
There's I don't know if I'm thinking of the right one. There's a few different like tall guys, right? There's the one where if you shoot him, he splits off into a bunch of other smaller dudes.
Yeah, that one. I call him Scarecrow.
Yeah, that one. And God, that's so creepy. Seeing all those like little spider-looking things crawl around
Yeah,
the
I
walls.
didn't like. Yeah, those little sticky things that like flip up and down the wall with their little limbs. That's what they looked like.
Like they didn't even crawl. They like flipped. Yeah, they were like flipping up and down.
They look like
And
You
then
know
one
what I'm
of,
tumbling
talking about,
over
right?
themselves.
Those little toys.
and then one of
Yeah.
them was a
The skull.
one of them was a skull that latches onto your head. It was amazing. I love just the creativity behind that.
Some of the death designs are amazing. I don't know if either of you got killed by the regenerator, and I did years ago. Did you see the animation? What happens when you lose to the regenerator?
I've not.
Mm-mm.
So the regenerator puts both of his arms up to pick Isaac up into the air and repeatedly stabs him in the stomach, cuts his legs off and his arm off with the gun. And Isaac like raises his last arm to like kind of reach out, and the necromorph like looks pissed off and cuts his head off and rips him
Jeez.
into half. And I'm like, holy shit, that's cool as fuck. Like the
Dead
death
Space is
scenes
kind
are-
of a messed up game when you think about it.
yeah. Well,
It's very.
literally
Gee,
the
what makes you
developers-
think that, Andy?
So the developers were like, well, if you're gonna lose, it's got to be the most entertaining way to lose.
Yeah, it's got to make you feel really. It basically makes you feel really bad. Of like, oh, that's what happened when I didn't.
I'm sorry, Isaac.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Isaac. God, Isaac has had the worst life that any human has ever lived. The span of 3 games, he's like
I mean,
had.
maybe those
It's like-
first 40 years were pretty good. Who knows?
No,
like,
he's literally
It's like
literally
Ripley from
goes
Alien.
from he gets picked up from Child Protective Services because his mom abandons him to spend money on unitology.
Oh, oh, the irony. Poor guy.
It's just a shit show for Isaac.
You know what they say? This
Poor-
is the hardest of things take the strongest of wills, or something like that.
Or something like that.
Something purple man. I don't know.
All right, so looping it back to horror, what were your favorite scenes in horror? Because one of my favorites was Chapter 2, when you're going to it's the guy who's banging his head on the wall. And there's like that
I know exactly
big
what you're talking about.
letdown
Yeah.
when you're going down the hallway, and the first time you play, you kind of take it cautiously, or at least this is how I do it, where I'm like, I need to evaluate the situation carefully.
Mhm.
So I'm just kind of like hearing this thud as I go around the corner. I just see a man hitting his head on the wall. I'm like, yeah, right. And you get closer, he just bashes his head, and I'm like, I feel that.
I think he lost.
There's
I'm
so
trying
many
to-
good horror moments like that.
I'm trying
in
to
my
think of
opinion.
some. Yeah, I'm trying to think of some moments too. I forgot how creepy outer space was, where just because everything's silent, so you just see a necromorph like shamble in from the corner of your camera, and it's like there's no music sting.
Just the giant 360 flesh pit. That was the creepiest part to me, because it was just so grotesque and over the top.
And it's like, how the hell? That's one of those instances where it's like, how the hell am I supposed to fight this?
Yeah.
Or
Oh
like,
hell no.
I'm trying to think of some other creepy stuff. I guess just overall the game was creepy. It wasn't. A lot of the scares. It was. I've said this before. It wasn't like scary, like it wasn't necessarily scary. It was just like it was exhausting, and to the point of like oh my god, there's all these monsters are spawning in. What the hell do I do? Specifically that scene where I forget where you are. You're in like a giant sort of warehouse area, and there's the tentacles are like keep
11.
Chapter. I know it's chapter 11, but it's where the tentacles keep
When you go to
reaching
get
up.
the marker. So
Yeah.
I know this game so well.
And all the necromorphs are constantly spawning in. That was one of the moments in the game where I remember noticing like, wow, they're really just throwing everything at me, aren't they? And yeah, near the end of the game, I started noticing that of like, oh, they're really trying to make you use up all of your ammo and health. Because they keep spawning in so many necromorphs.
Did you all ever find Ping?
I don't think so.
Well, it's not an online game, so I didn't really have to worry much about my ping, but
No, Peng, Peng.
I got your joke, Titus.
That was great.
Burke kind of just talked over it.
Thanks, man.
I didn't give a shit. I'm sorry. This is something
you're fine. You're fine.
This is something I'm passionate about over here. If you look out throughout the world, even in the tram car, there's a billboard that says "There's always Ping," and it's like some weird sitcom thing. But when you go back to in the very first level, if you look in the runway, there's like this trophy in between the two shuttle docks.
Oh,
and when you go back to chapter 11, you can TK it. It's worth 35,000 credits.
Really?
And you get an achievement called "There's Always Peng," and there's a set. It's in every game. There's a way to find Peng in every single game in the trilogy.
I thought you were gonna say you were gonna stumble upon him as a survivor or something.
I was gonna say that too. That's why.
No, it's just this weird fucking like sitcom relic thing, but it's worth a fuck ton of money. Yeah,
it's like Left 4 Dead 2, where you can see the Midnight Riders party van drive by.
All right, guys, we gotta make a space horror shooter, and then you have to try and find Big Bang Theory. You gotta find you have to find young Sheldon.
I will personally put him down.
Trying to think of some other like horror stuff, because it was. I mean, in regards to horror,
the crew that like became like toxic air, where they just became these their lungs.
Oh, those things
so creepy.
Yeah, those things were gross.
If you could be a necromorph, which one would you be?
I choose D. None of the above.
I prefer pukers from Dead Space 2. I think they're the goofiest looking thing on the planet, and I don't, because no one besides me I think has played the Dead Space 2 multiplayer. Their melee attack is they just windmill arm themselves like Fry from Futurama, where he goes. That's their method of melee attack.
God, Dead Space 2 multiplayer. Did anybody even play that? Was that even playable?
Probably the completionist at some point.
Listen, I got to full rank at Dead Space 2 multiplayers. Don't fucking at me here.
I want to be the necromorph that dies the easiest, so that way I have a less chance of killing anyone.
You're a triangle?
Yeah.
I call them the triangles. That's what they look like. The little things that tumble over, and they're like the swarmer things.
Oh, I hate those. The first time you encounter those, by the way, did anyone else underestimate how dangerous they were?
Oh, there's not a single player I know that didn't die that first time in chapter 2 when you're like...
That very first time, it's like, oh, look at these stupid little things. And they just immediately swarm you, and you die. It's like, oh, God. It's such a horrifying looking like concept, too. It's just these tiny little...
Things
like
fight and nip their way through your armor. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing, like just the idea that these are organs that are turned into monsters. Like something about that is fundamentally disturbing and creepy. Like that, like a body bursting apart and all these little things come like running at you. It's so gross.
I like fat enemies. I call them the pregnates.
The ones that
their whole purpose of being made was to punish players if they were aiming for the body. That's their whole purpose.
Yeah, because I noticed one time I killed them and they did drop all the enemies, but every other time it's like they wouldn't drop them. So I guess
when you hit the body when they pop.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's literally just a punishment game. It's just a higher end of like they're slightly tougher. They do a little more damage, but the big thing is if you hit them center mass at all, it's a big fuck up.
I mean, that would have been a better way to teach a player to shoot at the limbs, not give them 4 different audio logs and messages saying you have to do this.
I mean, it was chapter 3, so it was pretty early when they in the
although
game.
I've seen plenty of in preparation for this. I went and watched a couple of VTubers play it.
Yeah.
And it's like, even when they teach you to shoot at the limbs, plenty of them completely forget how to do that. It's like, oh, they're always just, they're treating it like a normal third-person shooter, which I find kind of funny. One of those games that has a unique combat mechanic that you need to learn quickly, otherwise you're not going to make it through it the whole game. Burke, I don't know if you've ever... Oh, sorry. This is completely off tangent, but if you want to say your thing, and then I'll say my thing.
I was going to say Hive Mind, final boss.
Oh, I love that boss because it was just a Zelda boss, so I beat it in like 10 minutes.
He was shockingly... I forgot how easy he was. I was expecting it to be big and like... I had more trouble with the one Titus was saying, the big, like, in the 360 room.
Well, Leviathan's hard. It's a bullet sponge. And
yeah, that was definitely the most momentous moment of the game, in my opinion.
The Hive Mind was, because he had such an easy attack pattern. He'd swipe his right tentacle and his left one.
If you just, what's the term? Strafe?
Yeah.
You strafe and win.
I literally figured that out. I was like, oh, this is easy.
Like, did you like the upside down section? Did you have a hard time with that?
I had it's shockingly hard with a mouse. Like, it's not impossible, but it's harder than I would expect. Because it's just something about it, the way your cursor moves, it's hard to track where you're pointed at. Anyway, I was gonna go on a tangent if you want me to go on that.
Go for it.
I was talking about VTubers playing Dead Space and not understanding. It's not even not understanding the meta. It's not understanding how the game works. Like not understanding that you're supposed to shoot at monsters in the limbs. Burke, do you remember when, I think, gosh, who was it? There a couple of VTubers played, I think, one of the Halos. I think it was Halo Reach. I want to say Ame. I want to say she played it. So Titus would probably know.
I do believe she played Halo at some point.
They played Halo Reach, and they didn't figure out how in Halo you have to break the shields first, then you got to shoot them with a precision weapon. They were unable to figure that part out. So their entire like little stream, they completely had a bad time playing Halo.
And Ame.
Was it Callie? It was Callie and Ame. I know two of them. Like, they didn't figure that out.
The goats.
So I find that interesting. I find it interesting how there are those like not really metas, but just kind of mechanics of gameplay that people who are experienced with it understand perfectly, but you don't realize how many people don't get it on their first attempt.
I mean, this now we're going down the rabbit hole of like what is video game logic that like people who play video games often will find very intuitive, or like, that's the winning strategy, just keep doing that. Versus someone that probably doesn't play a lot of games or plays games more casually.
Or plays games that are games that do not have mechanics that complicated, a la Apex.
Or just hit them in the head or something, you know? Like, I get that, because, like, I play a lot of board games as well. So, like, in board games, especially something more tabletop games, such as, like, Mansion of Madness, Splendor, and stuff like that, you have to figure out a lot of ways that make things work with a lot of complicated rule sets. So, obviously, like, I'm going to be looking like, oh, that thing has a shield, and this takes out the shield in one hit, and then I can kill him with a headshot with the other. Why would I do any other strategy? Like, when everything else is super inefficient. But to the average player, it's like, well, why would you do this just to play a game, to have fun? You're like, shut your mouth.
That's not what we're here for.
Yeah.
Although even then, I hate that argument. It's like, I want to play a game to have fun. It's like, well, I want to play a game the way the developer intended, because chances are they probably know how the game is supposed to be played to enjoy it. But we don't want to.
All games can be played the way you want to.
Off topic, but I was chatting with somebody. I mentioned Apex Legend. I was chatting with somebody, and for whatever reason, they brought up Apex. I brought up how I prefer Titanfall 2. Titus, are you talking? By the way, I can see your mouth moving, and no sound is coming out.
No, I'm not.
Just making sure. But yeah, I brought up how I like Titanfall 2 more. And they're like, Titanfall 2, isn't it that old game that was a prequel to Apex? So first off, that already got me annoyed. It's like, it's not a prequel. It came out before Apex. And I'm like, it's not old. And then like, but it came out 6 years ago. And I had to stop and be like, oh, it did. It did.
Now you're welcoming into my world. I'm like, oh, Dead Space was like a really revolutionary game. Oh.
Oh, it's so old. It's weird how your brain works like that. You think that it was better than it really is.
I mean, there's the nostalgia goggles on everything.
Dude, as a kid, I remember seeing a gameplay demo of GTA 4 in like some store somewhere, probably like a Target. And I remember thinking as a kid, like, wow, video games now look like real life. Like, I remember thinking that. I'm like, you cannot tell that is a video game. That's real life.
You poor,
and then
you naive young child.
Then I said,
I literally had those thoughts about GameCube games. It's okay.
Then I said I don't know. Even then, looking back, I think the leap between Gen 6 and 7, I don't think we're ever getting a leap that big again. Going from fucking like San Andreas to GTA 4, or trying to think of some other examples, but that graphical leap was. I don't think we're ever going to see something on that scale again. Halo 1 and 2 to Halo 3, like there's nothing we're ever going to see that again. Anyway, back to Dead Space.
To loop this back, we've covered horror and necromorphs already in conversation.
Pretty much, yeah, I noticed that.
So the last would be atmosphere, graphics, sounds, art style, and aesthetics.
Mm-hmm.
Besides story, which I think I've covered story quite a bit here too, and how much I love it. What were y'all thoughts on the graphics? Because like growing up with Dead Space, I got to be introduced to the webcomics, the websites that had like little trailer bits that had like interactable parts that told you some of the lore through it. And then of course I grew up with the book and the movie when it came out.
There's a book.
Yeah, there's 4 books now. Look, Dead Space was poised to be like a Halo, the horror version of Halo, in terms of media presence.
I was gonna say it's not that weird. Halo had books.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. It's like it was trying to be the next like Halo big franchise.
How well did those original games sell?
The second one sold all right. The problem was that they blew their budget so badly on advertising with that, like Your Mom Hates Dead Space and all the multimedia, that it was doomed to fail unless it sold like 20 million units or something absurd.
Yeah, it cost 60 million. Dead Space 2. Jesus. Yeah. I like how nowadays that's cheap for a game.
Why do companies like to do that thing where they like sell, like where they're like, oh, parents hate it, it's actually really bad for you, and then I've never once. The only time I can ever think of a game doing that was when they made that video game adaptation of Dante's Inferno,
which was also Dante's the same Inferno. Studio. That's the same studio.
That was Visceral,
the same studio. Right? Oh.
Huh. Do you know what Visceral? Burke knows this. Don't spoil it. Titus, do you want to guess?
What this breaks my heart. I'm going to be quiet for a second.
So Visceral Studios, they made Dead Space, and then they made Dead Space 2, and then EA forced them to make Dead Space 3, which had guns and cover combat and literal microtransactions, and it failed spectacularly. Do you know what the last game Visceral ever made before they were shut down by EA?
Style Savvy 7.
Critically acclaimed horror studio. They were forced to make a Battlefield spin-off game called Battlefield Hardline. That wasn't even a mainstream Battlefield game. It was Battlefield Cops and Robbers Edition. Of course, you may ask, what does that have to do? What does that have to do with the battlefield? What does that have to do with military? And the answer is nothing. Man, not only did EA kill Dead Space, they almost killed Battlefield. Berg, I don't know if you remember what that era was like as someone who played Battlefield. That was
I can tell you as someone who was just a fan of video games watching EA become the villain.
Yeah.
Well, they were. I don't know. I've always seen EA as the villain.
Because I never really played any of those guys. I was like up until like maybe like 2015, 2016. Outside of some instances, I was like 90% a Nintendo gamer, and that's about it.
Oh, you're a Nintendo nerd.
Yes.
Excuse me, I was a Nintendo nerd until Dead Space, literally.
You know, my outfit is literally modeled after the Gen 1 Pokemon trainer design. I don't say I'm a Nintendo nerd. Yeah, what surprise.
Are you one of those Nintendo nerds who hates JRPGs and hates anime? Are you one of those Nintendo nerds?
I literally recommended us to play a JRPG.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
Yeah, you gave us baby's first JRPG though.
I thought Pokemon was
Well,
Pokemon
look,
was
you
baby's
guys didn't
first
have
JRPG.
you guys didn't have Fire Emblem Three Houses, so I went with the
I
next
have 3
thing I
houses.
thought
What
of.
the fuck?
I don't,
Oh.
and I've never played a Fire Emblem game, and I never intend on playing one.
Actually, 3 houses is kind of legit.
Andy would be like, "There's no guns in this game." Yeet!
There isn't.
He'd throw
You
it.
could use bow and arrow. It's legit.
That doesn't count.
Yes, it does.
It's a weak man's
Andy,
gun.
you came from a time period where there were no guns. What are you on about, man?
There were guns in the Renaissance. Are you saying there weren't guns in the Renaissance?
Not viably.
Go play Mountain Blade and tell me how you can survive in that game without a fucking flintlock pistol. That's the best part of that game is you run on horseback and a guy's trying to swipe at you with his sword and you just whip out your pistol and one shot him.
And then you reload for 45 seconds.
Yeah, I was gonna
that's the
say,
best.
like,
Oh, Burke, have you played Mountain Blade?
Can't say I
Napoleonic
have.
Warfare. That is the best multiplayer game ever made. It's
look,
as hilarious as it sounds. It's people with muskets shooting at each other, and you have to slowly reload. And the guns are inaccurate too, and it is the most terrifying multiplayer game because you only have one life. You die, and that's it. You have to wait for the next round, and it's these two large teams of players fighting each other, and it is a terrifying game because you miss your shot and you have to slowly reload as the guy's running at you with like a bayonet.
listen.
Oh, that's what I love. I love that.
If me and my friends can't, if the game does not consist of me and my friends using the power of teamwork, justice, and willpower to beat the shit out of the Eldritch Abomination and have a happy ending, what's the point? What's the point?
Dead
Do you think
Space gives you the power of friendship. The power of friendship with your plasma cutter.
I was gonna say Dead Space teaches you that friendship is bullshit, and there's no such thing. There's no
There
such
is
thing
no
as
friends.
There's
There
no
is no-
such. There's no
It
such
has
thing
no
as
message on
friends.
friendship because there is
Listen,
no friends to be
motherfucker.
had.
Hammond. I will stand up for Hammond. Hammond was
Nah.
a fucking G.
I think both Hammond and Kendra were both bad. I think if
I
Kendra
thought
had died, I think if Kendra had died before Hammond, he would have been just as bad.
I thought Hammond was the bad guy, and then he died, and I'm like, oh, he was the real one the whole time.
But
Dude, Hammond was a fucking G. He literally was just like, look, man, I'm here to do a job. I'll help you find your girlfriend. Help me finish job. And Kendra was being standoffish and annoying the whole time.
Yeah,
I mean,
Kendra
we,
had
we'll
it
talk.
coming.
We can talk. If we want to talk about that, the
Look,
plot.
I'm invested
Otherwise,
in...
we can go back to the graphics and the.
Yeah, all right, fine. Yeah, fine.
what'd
I'll
you-
call my rage for now.
We'll talk. That is part. We have that on our list. But yeah, the graphics I thought they were dated, but I think they hold up pretty well, especially art direction. I don't know. It had a good atmosphere to it. It a little overly creepy, like a mining ship. I get it's supposed to be all grungy and worn down, but kind of a little overdone. But I think they just they felt the need to make it, a horror game. So all of a sudden the ship has to look scary too, kind of like Event Horizon, where the ship itself is this just creepy, like gothic nightmare. Or a little bit like Alien, where the ship is just these like dark black gray hallways that don't have any logical purpose to them and are just kind of there to be creepy.
Yeah.
What'd you think, Titus?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
I'm sorry.
Uh,
I'm trying to.
Burke.
I'm trying to collect my thoughts.
Yeah, I can go if you need more time.
Yeah. You go ahead first.
I really enjoyed a lot of the facts, the little details where it was really clear that not only was it a well lived in ship, it is a very well worn ship. Like there are parts that were clearly needing repair before the ship even went to shit. Or like when you get into the initial docking area, like welcome to the HG Ishimura. You know, and it goes through this little like dossier of like what the ship is, the flight lounge, the tunnels. My favorite chapter will always be the hydroponics one, where like they make food here, and
That's
how
my
big those.
First off, that's my least favorite chapter, but I like the logic.
I'm talking
of it.
design wise.
Yes.
I
It's like-
really enjoyed
like-
hydroponics.
I actually agree. I think like
They need
in terms
oxygen.
of, like, set design, that was the coolest one to run around in.
Kind of I think, and this is kind of what I liked more about Dead Space 2's environments, that actually felt like a lived-in city. Which it's a different location.
Or like, here's one of my other favorite notes is in all throughout the game, you see all these posters that are very like World War II Rosie Riveter campaign stuff, right? Like all engineering.
I saw that, yeah.
And then when you get to the military ship, it goes from like, through cooperation we will succeed, to the stars are ours, and it's all these super hyper machismo posters of like guys in military gear on the military ship, and how the medical deck is much smaller and all this stuff. Like you get to go through the whole ship, and like how the barracks was this big clusterfuck of a bunch of people living in one room, because that's how soldiers would have lived.
And you go into the barracks, and instead of like pinups of girls, you just see like pinups of like Gargura and Yanners. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh yeah, that was a Hololive ship if I've ever seen one. That was a Calliope Mori ship. I get the feeling.
Base.
I just wanted to say this to make Andy feel cringe.
Dude, the next time
you think you cannot cringe me?
Dude, I'm telling you, one of these days we're gonna see a plane go into battle within our lifetimes. It's gonna have like Ina on the side of it or something. Like
Japan. I mean, Titus. Japan literally has that. There are attack helicopter pilots who are women who have anime pinups of themselves on their own helicopters.
That is,
I know, it's
so
beautiful.
based.
Have you
So based.
Have you've seen that before, Titus? Right?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I want to see Pekora go to war with a pinup of herself on the side of the plane.
But yeah, you can't out cringe me, because I now have 2 cards in my deck. In addition to Vaporeon, I now have Sprigatito. So don't mess with me.
Anyway,
I've seen
I
worse.
just love.
I just can't talk about it.
I love Dead Space's also like direction to horror, because like one of the documentaries I watched was the team would frequently watch horror movies and look at like car accident and specific like medical fuck ups to draw stuff accurately.
Could you imagine like you're being contracted at a studio to make a video game, and it's like, all right, today everybody, we're gonna look at car accident fatalities, and you're gonna have to remodel that gore that you see in the game. Oh God, what did I sign up for?
That sounds like I don't know if you guys, but like, you know, like people who work in like serious, like upper parts of like the FBI and CIA, who have to like investigate like very, very serious crimes. They have to like go through all of the images and videos and stuff like that, and they like regularly need to be switched out and then go to extensive therapy for life after. Like, I can't imagine like
Facebook
how
had
messed
that.
Up was. Yeah,
they have censors who look through, who've seen some horrible shit.
I truly have the utmost amount of sympathy for those people. Like, genuinely, like I feel like working on that team would have been a nightmare. Okay, all right, team, today we're gonna look at some snuff films.
Oh my God.
Like from Serbia.
Most FBI agents, they're looking at like white collar crime. They're looking at people who are scamming other people, or like they're looking for like Ponzi schemes and pyramid schemes. They're not usually doing that. But I get what you mean, though. That is, just imagine doing that. You'd probably get really jaded. That's what I imagine would happen.
The other fun thing is like some of the movie posters in Dead Space. Sorry, I'm looping it back here.
I do want to go back to the old medical like car accident thing.
Yeah.
And this is just a fun fact, and Burke, you probably know this. Do you know this? With Mad Max, how George Miller got most of his inspiration from that, because he was an ER doctor and he saw many car fatalities throughout his life, and he was like, that like kind of stuck into his brain. He's like, I want to show this like in a movie. I kind of want something to express this. And he's like, well, I'll just do a movie about cars and horrific violence, and that's kind of where he got Mad Max like in his brain. Maple.
That was a fantastic film.
Um, they're all good films. I like. People
I
don't
mean,
like the original,
actually,
but I kind of like it.
I didn't know that, and I love the original. But that makes complete sense in that
For
context.
like the first Mad Max before it's actually an apocalypse movie, it's just it's more of a dystopian movie because there's no apocalypse in it yet. But yeah, that was like literally all of that imagery came from him because he would be in the ER and he'd see all these accidents, all this horrific shit, and it's like, all right, I gotta put this, I gotta show this to other people. Anyway, that was a tangent. We've gone on a lot of those on this stream.
That's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But the movie posters, including, and when you get into living quarters, they have one called Red Moon or something. I can't remember the exact name, but that was the original cover art for what Dead Space was supposed to be when you were escaping the prison colony for the System Shock 3 knockoff. Like, this game has so much passion. This game has so much goddamn passion in it.
Red Moon is what I want to, because I want to look this up.
Yeah, it's just the movie posters, but they have a lot of funny fake movie posters in that game.
I'll look it up later. But yeah, that brings up a good point. There is like a lot of soul in this game. One little detail I like is all those I don't even know what they were. They were like those like gambling machines, or like those like claw machines, like littered everywhere.
Oh yeah.
It's like, and that makes sense. It's like, oh, there's so many people on the job. It's like, why wouldn't you have these all scattered around?
Like, you need to have some fun somewhere, or like the energy drink posters and stuff like that.
Yes, yep. Rancid Moon, that's what it was called.
Rancid Moon, yeah.
I'm sure if you took like a fine what's the word, like a fine pick or whatever to like the whole
comb?
game. Yeah, thank you. A fine comb to it, and just just pour it over every detail. There are probably tons of little Easter eggs they put in just because they were bored while they were making the graphics.
But I like that because it's like, it clearly shows like all the developers were given some level of creativity. It feels lived in.
It feels like it's a world that people actually were there at some point.
Oh, I just remember my favorite non-jump scare.
What's your favorite non-jump scare jump scare?
Chapter 3, when you're going down engineering, where you have to get to the doors to stasis them, you see this guy on the wall, right? And you go in the room, I don't know if you encounter this, but you aim the gun on him, and he starts crawling.
I don't remember this.
It only happens if you aim the gun at him. If you just go in the room normally, and you're like, oh, it's just a dead body, he won't do anything. But if you aim the gun, he starts crawling. I was like, ah!
Creepy.
And he dies. And then as you go to turn around, a necromorph runs past the door.
Ooh.
It's just one of my favorite things, because I remember that was the first time I ever...
Yeah, there were a lot of moments where I would just be going about I would just be doing something, and then literally out of nowhere, oops, you got attacked from behind. There was no sound or visual to go with it.
There was some...
All right.
Something I noticed I was doing like very early on in the game, and Burke, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, is when a bunch of enemies spawn in front of you, you immediately start thinking to yourself, there's probably a guy.
Where's the one behind me?
Where's the one behind me? So I noticed as these battles would start, I would shoot at like a necromorph, and I immediately turn around. It's like, is there a guy there? Nope. Okay, I'm good. I'm kind of curious to know what the goal behind this was. Early on, they established that they used the vents to travel, but there are so many vents in Dead Space to the point where it's like, did they just throw that in there to mess with the player? To be like, okay, you have to be careful with all these ventilation shafts, but guess what? They are literally everywhere, in every single room.
Yeah, I think they just said that as a justification for them literally just spawning enemies directly behind you with no warning on occasion.
Well, that's where they spawn from.
You can hear the vent always being busted open the first time.
And they'll move through. They'll move through them. If they can't get to you from a certain angle, they'll just jump into a vent.
There's a really peculiar fun glitch people discovered really early on, that if you speedrun the game or you don't engage with the necromorphs, they never despawn. So if you were to run the first chapter without killing a single
Oh,
necromorph and then wait in a
really?
room, they will start pouring in one by one by one till you can have a whole hallway full of necromorphs.
Oh, that's so creepy. I love it.
Like, they never stop coming at you. Unlike Resident Evil 4, where if you went to a room, like in speedruns, you rely on this a lot for hard resets, is if the enemy pattern isn't right, you just go back, you go through the door and go back to respawn
reset,
everything.
yep.
That's It's nonstop in Dead Space. Unless you
Oh.
get to the next chapter, it is continuous.
That is creepy. I don't like that. I don't know how I like. I really don't like that. That's so creepy. But it is cool. It's cool how that's tracked too.
Can't believe Dead Space ripped off Five Nights at Freddy, SMH.
Yeah. 5 Nights at Dead Space.
5
They
marks
still
at
make new
Freddy's.
games? Do they still make new games for that franchise?
They just
Yeah,
came
they-
out with one.
Yeah.
Oh.
You pilot Freddy like a mech suit.
And then you fight the Death Star.
Oh, dude, the new Gundam is wild, bro.
I like how, by the way, I like how the first half, my sentence was completely factually true, but then Burke made a joke, so Titus probably doesn't believe me now.
Yeah, that was the whole
You
point.
literally-
Was that
yeah, you literally
it's
have
truth
to.
and a lie.
You literally have to hide inside Freddy. I haven't played it. Apparently, it's has really horrible optimization. I think I mentioned that before, is because the way they modeled it is they gave Freddy way too many polygons for his 3D model, so that whole game lags entirely because of how badly the modelers did optimizing it.
Oh no.
Oh, I love Game Freak. They all I know
No,
about
Titus, they added too many polygons, not enough.
Okay. All I know
They didn't
about
they didn't add N64 trees to the game.
all I know about Five Nights at Freddy's is some new game had to have come out recently because a bunch of dudes and ladies on my Twitter feed the last month or two have been really horny for the Fox.
You
I don't know
mentioned that
why.
before. I'm editing one of our Left 4 Dead streams, the one where we played Five Nights map, and I remember you brought that up on Burke's chat, and
Yeah.
Burke read that out loud, and I'm like, "What the fuck are you saying, Burke?"
Illuminati pizza party.
No, I swear, I'll just be going through my Twitter feed, minding my business, and then I'll be like, oh, it's her, that one person I see all the time on my feed. I wonder what she's posting. She's just
Do you ever watch?
thirst posting for the wolf chick.
Do you ever watch?
robot.
Do you ever watch Snuffy?
I've seen clips of her.
Yeah.
I feel like she's probably too yabai for me. I feel like I'd
Yabe?
feel
I mean, that just ties into the Five Nights loot. Anyway, nobody's looted Dead Space, have they?
It's kind of
I'll
hard.
say that. I'm sure that
It's
exists.
kind of hard. It exists. There's like
I'm
two
sure it
things
exists.
out there.
I'm sure it exists too. Even as I was saying it, like this, I guarantee some guy has drawn something to this.
To
Well,
which
I've
I
Dead
say,
Space too.
sir, do you need a hug? You seem like you need a hug. Like, come on.
No,
man.
and I'm putting this in my own search history, so you don't gotta. I'm looking this
No,
up.
dude, Bert.
No,
No, Bert, don't.
Because then he's just gonna send it to us.
No, I'm
No,
not.
Bert,
There is
no.
actually a surprisingly there's a lot of it.
Oh my god.
Oh my God, Burke. Burke,
Well,
that's
at
so
least 6 pages worth of it.
Burke, that's so degenerate. Can you send me some?
Oh my god.
Hey, I didn't really look at it. I was like, oh, there's 6 pages worth of it. I can scroll through.
Snuffy, in case you forget who she is, she's the one where she went to Google something and she put in the letter H, and the first result that came up was hottest Pokemon. She's that streamer.
Yeah, she's the one who
Um,
recently did the Smasher Pass Markiplier meme with Iron Mouse, and she smashed like 90% of the Pokemon. Which,
All
like,
of it,
look, you know what? Fair game to you. You do what you want, but like, I was just out here wilding at some of the choices, like, absolutely wilding.
If you say yes to any of them, that's a degenerate maneuver.
To me, I'll say this: there's one that's
Degenerate.
debatable. It's like, all right, that's understandable. The rest of them, they're animals. It's like, don't even think about it.
I guess
You
it
know-
depends on which canon you're going
I think
by.
this is the most horrifying part of the stream yet.
Do you know-
Well, according to according to the canon of the anime, like, I don't know,
Vaporeon
like,
only weighs 50 pounds.
Stop.
Uh, I don't know
I mean-
why the evolutions are so popular in that way because
I
like
have no idea because people are fucked up.
I don't know.
I mean,
Whatever.
I get Gardevoir. I get that. And that's the one. That's the one. Everything
mean,
else
I-
is debatable. Everything
like,
else should not
I get Pokemon are
should
supposed
not be
to
on the table.
I get Pokemon are supposed to be like as smart as people most of the time, so like people think
Are
it's not
they?
as weird. But like, yeah, in most canons, they're usually depicted as like.
It depends on
Smartest
who's. I
people.
think it depends on who's writing it.
Yeah, I think like the manga and the anime usually depict them as pretty smart. The games, it's like, well, I mean, they don't ever bother putting in that much detail into anything in the games, so you wouldn't know. But like, I don't know, man. I think it's kind of weird.
Anyway, I like how every discussion with me and Titus gets back to Pokemon.
I hate
No matter
it.
what. No matter
I hate it.
what. Now you're gonna play Legends Arceus. I saw.
No.
I saw a really bad post of somebody cataloging. Never mind. I don't want to bring this up. All right.
Arezu, my beloved.
Just someone playing Legends Arceus and say it was a really long-winded 4chan copy pasta about how they were only catching Eevees. Anyway, back to Dead Space. I don't even remember.
Let's
where
wrap
we
it
were.
up with the story.
We are going to do a stream reviewing that
We're
game.
still on the. I mean, we're still doing atmosphere and aesthetics. Like,
Okay. It felt genuinely oppressive in some areas, and every space track always felt nerve-wracking. No matter how many times I've
I
played
hated
it.
going into space. It was so creepy.
I
That
actually
was my
thought going
favorite
into
part.
space was one of the cooler parts because I was like, finally, something that's not a dark, dreary alleyway that looks like every other one.
Damn, dude.
And that's another thing they established is that the necromorphs can survive in space. Because the first time you do it, it's like, ooh, am I kind of safe here? Because like there's a timer ticking down. It's like,
Yeah,
the only thing I have to worry about is my oxygen.
And you
then
you run
then you
into
come-
one as you're going back.
Then
Yeah, if
you
anything-
go through the room and then you come back out and there's
I
one
think
just standing there.
I think I would have enjoyed the game more if there was more segments like where you were outside the spaceship because it was way more tense, but it didn't feel like unfair. It was just like, and then you had to like, I will say one of the things I enjoyed the most about the game was any section where you had like the ability to like super jump because of the lack of gravity. That was fun. So
Well,
Like
like,
it's
I
like
actually
Leviathan
really
fight
liked
where you
that.
could jump over the tentacles instead of just running away from them.
Well,
Yeah, yeah,
Titus,
yeah.
they made a game just for you. It's called Dead Space 3.
Dead Space 2 had some fun combat scenarios in 0G.
Mandalore Gaming did a really funny
Look, all I-
comparison with
Look, all I'm saying,
all the like the cinematic moments in Dead Space 2 where he's like flying through the terrain as it's crashing. He's got like the jet boots going. He looks like Iron Man. And he compares it to Dead Space 1 with him like awkwardly like jumping onto different surfaces.
Yeah.
look, all I'm saying is if necromorphs are gonna teleport behind me and nothing personnel kitting me with no sound cue warning, it might as well be in space because then I can justify it to myself.
There's also something I forgot to mention is I think the creepiest necromorphs were the ones that had like I don't know the name. Burke is probably gonna know it as soon as I say it. Where they have like the two upper arms and they also have the tail. They kind of
The
like
lurker.
the lurker.
Oh, wait, no.
No, that's the one with the 3 tentacles. I'm talking about the one that has 3 limbs. It has
I
2
call him the
arms
dog.
and a tail.
I call him the dog.
Where he looks like he could just he looks like very like immobile. Like he kind of just he just crawls around, but then he gets onto his 2 legs and comes running at you like a little dinosaur. And it's so creepy the way he walks at you. Something about it is really unnerving. Anyway, that's what I wanted to bring up. I forgot to mention him.
The leapers is what they're called.
Leapers. 'Cause for whatever reason, you see them in a lot of 0G sections.
Because they're the only ones that have the animation to leap.
Yeah.
Oh, is that it? Okay. That actually makes sense.
Because the only other one that could meet you outside, and this would happen a lot more in Dead Space 2, was the lurkers, the babies, because they're ranged enemies too, so it made a lot more
And
sense.
they can
to
shoot
have
at
them.
you. Yep.
And they even
But
show up in
don't-
chapter 12.
Don't you see normal, like the normal necromorphs with like the little shoulder arms, like the normal guys? Don't you see those in space?
Never.
I could have sworn you did. Huh.
No, they don't have the ability to keep themselves. Basically, it comes down to can they keep themselves on the
Oh,
ground and attack you?
Gotcha.
Because the leapers have the tail to attack you with, and the lurkers obviously have the tendrils to shoot at you. But literally, the other necromorphs, they don't have their like stubby arms, their vestigial arms on top of their shoulder blades. They have to use the shoulder blades to stay on the ground. I remember they explained it in Dead Space 2 is like like anything that couldn't survive getting sucked out into the vacuum of space couldn't be an enemy.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's any excuse is a good one.
Yeah, but I thought that was a fairly fair excuse.
I mean, I get it just from a programming standpoint of like, okay, we need like one of these, and only some enemies can withstand, these animations and stuff. But
And look, not super jank.
yeah, I guess it makes sense. Yeah, because they crawl around and they leap, so they have to. Those are the only ones that can work with the animation.
I loved the mining deck too, where you had to throw a bunch of random asteroids into a gravity belt.
Those what was the one where they had the giant asteroid like kind of in the hangar and you had to like
That's
leap
chapter
onto
7
it?
too.
You had to plant the beacon. That one was stressful. I remember that.
Because you had to run. No, it had that stupid thing that kept it safe, so the metal rods were around. So you had to go on the other side to plant the beacon, where you wouldn't be smushed by it. But then there were necromorphs out there. The moment you started planting it, you're like,
But yeah, like atmosphere wise, it was great. Feels nice and lived in, very grungy. We haven't really, we've just talked about kind of the way it looks like visually. What about graphics? Like, does it look dated to you guys? Does it look like an old game?
It definitely does not hold up as well as Dead Space 2. I'll say that much.
What do you think, Titus, Mr. Graphic Snob, complaining about Legends Arceus?
That's because Game Freak could do better, we know.
I mean, like, yeah, it's aged, but I mean, like, considering, like, the time it came out, like, it's pretty good for when it came out. I'm just not really, huge into, like, the dark foreboding color scheme or like, atmosphere. But, I mean, objectively, yeah, it looks pretty good for when it came out. Nowadays, yeah, it's a little rough. It's still better than anything Game Freak's done, so, I mean, what...
Yeah, there's no N64 tree in Dead Space. The graphics were definitely dated. I still like them though. I loved the lighting. Like there was a section where I think it was chapter 11, right as you see Nicole, and we're gonna get into story. We're gonna wrap up story in just a sec. Don't worry. And all the screens are like flashing like the that orange text, and you can see it kind of like it bounces off of him, like something about it, like it reflects off of him, and you can see it like hit his armor, like it's dynamic lighting. And I don't know, I kind of like that. I love how detailed that part is.
Lighting design wise, I love this game.
It was very, very well done, especially for the time.
Especially if you put it down to where like the darkness setting's supposed to be. Because like, let's be real, I know a lot of people don't do that. I'm the one that has I spend 5 to 10 minutes trying to figure out what's the definition of barely visible when I look at this thing.
Optimal darkness setting.
Yeah, like I'm more of the optimal darkness guy. But when they do like lighting on specific things, it always looks stellar. Like everything is clearly meant to highlight combat zones or when someone's supposed to get hurt. It always shifts a lighting cue to make it brighter where the action is happening, and sometimes even adds like a green filter or blue filter to add an eerie effect.
It changed. I noticed that it changes on the room. Like you'll enter a room and all of a sudden it's tinted slightly a different shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lighting was good. It was. I think there were a few scenes where like there was one scene in particular I remember where you're close to like a big gaping hole in like the ship, and then like another ship passes by, and like
a big legs... what now?
You killed the space lug.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, there's like a big hole in the ship, and you see like another spaceship pass by, and like the light like just comes through all the like windows and openings in the ship, and like I don't know, just the way it lit up, like it was actually fairly realistic. Like I was actually kind of surprised how like nice it was.
It looks dated in some parts, but like for the time, you understand why. And I kind of like the ways they got around that. Like, I love the intro where you fly up to the Ishimura, and like all that's modeled, by the way. Like they're flying up to the ship, and it's slow. Like from a distance, it looks tiny, but then you get up to it, and it slowly gets bigger and bigger. And also, there's that sense of dread of like, oh shit, where I'm going to be on this ship the entire game or most of the game.
Yeah.
And then neat thing is like, okay, they got to find out a way. They got to get a way for you to get inside the hangar, but they can't render that entire thing. It's like, oh, just they put the blast shields down, and then
that was one of the smartest things.
Now you're watching a pre-recorded video about it, which is genius, because it's like that's a hidden loading screen. There were a bunch of hidden loading screens in this. I know some were longer than others. Like the elevators, I noticed started to take quite a long time.
Yeah, there were one or two elevators
going from levels to levels.
Really long.
Because it had to load an entire floor.
Yeah, but like, I noticed when playing on the tram sections, because I'm guessing on Xbox this would have taken a much longer to load. But like, I remember getting on the tram, and then the loading screen would pop up, and then immediately you'd be there. It's like, oh, I didn't even have a chance to take a break.
Yeah, there's an actual like routine and rhythm on the 360 where when you go to do the saving screen, you hit the save button, you could like get up, refill your glass of water, come back and take a sip, and then Isaac Clarke would finally step out of the tram right by the time you finished your drinking your water.
Yeah, just like the Metroid Dread loading screens.
Except, Dread made you backtrack a lot more.
I'm kind of curious, and this is something that maybe we can bring up later, but when we talk about what we'd want to see in a Dead Space sequel or successor, I'm kind of curious to know how this
one of my answers.
I know that. Well, one of your meme answers. Let's be real.
That's not a meme answer. That is a legit. I want a game where I build another Ishimura to break some moons.
When do you fight necromorphs though? When does that come in?
All the time when you're going to harvest other ships that have been derelict when the attack. There's asteroid fields.
Can we just forget that Dead Space 3 happened? Can we just forget that?
Yeah.
Honestly, that is the only thing you could do for Dead Space 4. You'd have to just pretend that 3 never happened. As sad as that is, or you just reboot it. Would you look? There's a reason why EA is only talking about rebooting the first game, because that's the only thing you can do. You try to make a sequel. Or remake 2. I mean, 1 is the simplest one to remake, and that is the one to if there is one of those games that if there's only one Dead Space game you can play, I think 1 is it.
Can I mention very briefly how funny it was that they were like teasing and they dropped more trailers and like, all right, we're shutting the fuck up now because we actually need them to finish the game.
Yeah, what happened with that? What happened with the? Oh, never mind. Whatever.
But my understanding is that you're asking me from like a media like manager perspective. I think what happened was basically the media manager's like, oh, we have material and we're getting some good traction on this. Like, dump anything you have and we'll do a controlled release. But the problem was, I don't think they had enough material that wouldn't just be dipping into like stuff they don't have fully rendered yet.
Are you talking about? And you're talking about the Dead Space reboot that they're trying to do.
The reboot, yeah.
The remake.
Because the original trailer they showed, I was like, I don't trust the lighting in this picture. There was things
I was about to say that, yeah.
Like
it doesn't look real. It looks like a pre-rendered thing.
Yeah. And I think they just realized they were kind of maybe dipping too much into what materials they had that weren't fully rendered yet, and it could be backlash, because this is the era where if you don't make a good first impression, good luck, brother.
You're gonna have a bad time.
You're gonna have a bath, Tim.
Do we want to talk about the reboot, or do we want to finish our current thing and then talk about that?
We'll close out on the reboot because I have a lot of thoughts.
I would like to talk about that as well. But yeah, graphics and atmosphere was amazing. The music, the music wasn't necessarily scary so much as it was intense.
Dead Space 2 soundtrack really took it up a notch.
You'd look at a necromorph and all of a sudden it'd be this huge orchestra playing in your ear. It's like, Jesus Christ. Which is why Space was super effective, because it's silent, and then just all of a sudden a necromorph walks up to you. It's like, there's no sound cue for this guy.
In Space, no one can hear you scream.
Apparently no one can hear the orchestra either.
Um,
Well, yeah, there's no air in space.
that's true. That is true. Except for the sound of Isaac choking on his own breath.
Well, that's because it's in his
That
suit.
Um, that always messed me up. Is like you'd have like 30 seconds of oxygen left, and he'd
It
sound like
sounds like he's
fucking.
about to fucking.
It sounds like he's choking. It's like, please stop, Isaac. Please calm down.
If space is so cool, why isn't it? Why does no one go there?
One thing we forgot to mention is all the cool the suits. What do you think about the Dead Space suits?
1,
The
2,
suits were
3, and
actually
5
really
are
cool. I
cool.
liked them.
4 was a
One-
little goofy.
1, 2, 3. Okay. I like the. I didn't like 1. 1 was lame because obviously that's the first one you come up with, and I do like the detail of how you have the number of I don't even know what they are, just the number of lights on the visor.
Yeah. Indicate the level.
Indicate the level. So you have 2 and then you have 3. It's weird that 3 became the iconic one, but I kind of get it because that is the one that looks the most like a welder suit.
It's also just the way the armor placement is. It's asymmetrical, which for me has always been a eye-catching thing. You don't look at my
and
arm,
the helmet seemed to be like rounded. Like it looked like a welder's helmet. Like I don't know how to describe it. Like it had a nice round sort of look to it.
It looked like a proper engineering suit if you had to make a
Yes.
spacesuit. Yeah.
And then the 4 and 5, just you're covered in this like bronze metal, and you look.
You know what's
like,
really funny? I remember the developers talking. A lot of the structure was super influenced by Gothic architecture, and the Dead
I can
Space
see
suit
that.
was also super heavily influenced by Gothic architecture. Actually, that's why there's all the the ribby bones that go down it. That's based on Neolithic
was gonna
Gothic
say.
Yeah.
I was gonna say there's no practical application for those. Like,
I mean, it kind of is. Like you think about like an atmosphere suit, like a suit that can survive in a zero pressure environment. You know, it's got to be mobile. He's got to be able to maneuver around, because like you see those astronauts out in outer space. Like there's a reason those suits are like cloth. Like you have to be able to move your arms and your legs. There's an old story where an astronaut got his suit stuck and he couldn't move his arm, and he was almost stuck out in space.
I can't even imagine. I would have pissed my pants on the spot. Like I would have lost it.
So like his suit inflated and he couldn't move his arm. So like he lost his mobility. So like I'm looking at the suit and it's
Did
like
he survive?
yeah, he survived. I forget how he solved it.
Good.
But like this suit, I don't think we've ever lost a person in space.
Yet.
Well, America
Yet.
has it. Maybe.
America has. Russia absolutely has, and they haven't told anybody. But there's it's cool looking at the suit because it's got like a leather or sort of just kind of cloth fabric, and then the armor that is sort of surrounds his limbs. It's riveted, like it's separated so that he can move his arms and legs. Like it's, and then even just the visor, it looks like a welder's visor. It looks like an engineering suit, which is what I kind of love about it.
Yeah,
You also could get the military suit New Game Plus.
I know that.
The first
Which
thing
was
that I
just
thought
basically
of,
the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That's what I always called it.
Sorry, what are you saying, Titus?
Well, the first thing I thought of when I saw his suit, like when it kept getting upgraded, like basically one of the main thoughts in my head was like, you know, like how like those dudes on like Ancient Aliens on History Channel, they were like, guys, it was ancient aliens. See these little carvings on the rock from the Aztecs or the Mayans? It's just got like vaguely humanoid looking things. Like I'm like, that's what it looked like to me. It's like I was like, it's like Isaac is in the third game, actually gets set back in time, and he was the ancient alien the whole time. That's what it looked like to me.
Neat touches. I love how the oh god, I have like Dead Space pulled up on Steam, so I'm looking at screenshots and someone posted the reboot, and you're totally right, Berg. It looks totally fake. I like. We didn't mention the HUD. Like it's all in game. It's all. Everything is physical. I love how the way he communicates on screen is like with a physical hologram in front of him that you can like rotate the camera around and see him react. And then I also love how like his health bar and his stasis charge is visible, like on his back.
Yeah, on the spine. I thought that was a pretty cool design touch.
Yeah.
There's another little touch that they don't show off immediately, but whenever you open the inventory screen, as you move it down the pixels, you'll see his head slightly turn
Yeah.
up, left to the right, or up and down, depending on where it is.
Look around on your inventory, and he'll follow it. I love that. I love little details like that. Even like I love how when you're walking down a corridor and you're not like looking, you yourself are not like moving the camera left or right.
But Isaac
will just kind of like he'll look right, look left, and he'll like hold the gun too. Like the way just the animation is so cool.
You know what the funny thing is? If you get rid of his guns, because I've many times trying to put things into the safe, have put my plasma cutter in the safe, and I walk around without a gun without realizing it for like a couple minutes. He's got a fucking Chad strut when he doesn't have a gun. He's got the fucking wide cut. He walks like, you ever seen those wide videos of characters?
Yeah, yep.
He looks like that.
He's like walking like, you ever seen those videos like the guy at the gym walking on the treadmill like old school Simon Belmont, like the
he walks like that. I got a fucking meeting to be at. Like,
yeah, that's great. I love that.
I love that. Just when he doesn't have a gun, because like he holds the gun, he hunches over. And this is my favorite detail with the plasma cutter. He's always slightly hunched over to like cradle it for better stability.
Yeah. I love it. Like, there's so much like detail that must have gone into the animation.
There's also another weird fact for you. The plasma cutter is the fastest gun Isaac can walk with.
Oh, is it?
Every other gun slows him down. Actually,
I never noticed
so in combat
that,
speed, you can dodge better with the plasma cutter.
Interesting.
My argument is every other gun was two-handed proper, so they're heavier guns. I think was.
You're right, because it's you're right. That is the only one-handed gun, is the plasma cutter.
Which he walks confidently forward one-handed. Like, what the fuck?
Well, because he's an engineer. That's just like a tool to him.
I know, but
it's just
so confidently, just that was over 300 meters. I don't care.
I think the standout thing about the game to me was just the acting was really solid. Like the acting was like really good from like the side characters.
Dude, the cast was so solid.
I thought Isaac had a really good voice actor. If I'm being honest, I thought Hammond was a little boring.
Well, he's supposed to be. He's like the boring security, get everything done, like, no nonsense.
But like, it didn't seem like there was a lot of like character put into him. You can always say like, oh, that's the intent, is he's just a boring businessman. But it's like, they could have made him a somewhat interesting character. Like, they could have given him an interesting like character voice actor. Like, there are many character actors out there who probably could have made that role a little better.
I always thought he was supposed to be the calm character. Like, that was his whole bit. Because like, even when you get in chapter 4, when you scare him for the first time after he's like called you so abruptly a medical deck and scared you, and he's like, "Damn, Isaac, scared me." And you're like,
"But yeah,
you on Zoloft? Are you? Is that your death?"
I mean, you can say that he's the calm character. He's still kind of just a boring character, if I'm being honest.
He was like the straight man.
He was a straight man who you thought had an ulterior motive, and if I'm being honest, he may have. I mean,
we'll never know.
We'll never know, because he died in a horrific death with a.
That's the death animation for if you lose to Brute, by the way. That's the actual in-game.
Is that what
animation.
happens?
That's what happens to Isaac if you lose that way too.
I can't be the only one who, at the end, when it turns out, the girl, which betrays you.
Okay, let's talk about the plot. We've talked about graphics and atmosphere and stuff. But how many of you saw that twist coming?
When I first saw it, I was a little. I didn't see the ghost. Was it The Shining or whatever? That was my first time into horror plot twists. So I had like suspicion, but to have it be confirmed was kind of like, oh, wait, what?
Oh, what, that Nicole was dead the whole time?
Yeah.
Okay, I was asking about Kendra. Like, did you suspect when you first played it? Did you think that she would turn out to be like working for the government and actually be the bad guy?
I didn't like her to begin with, so I was like, eh.
Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Titus. No, you go ahead.
The second that the guy died, I was like, oh, okay, she's evil. Like, I was like, I'm just boiling it that, like, look, this is a game from 2008. Let me think of like the most likely scenario. The dude who they were leading up making look sketchy died. She's the only supporting character left besides his girlfriend who keeps randomly appearing in weird visions. Like,
And
yeah, I'm
who
pretty sure she's evil.
you enter a room with her and all the monitors start like displaying these cryptic alien symbols. It's like, oh, I wonder if surely this isn't out of the ordinary.
Or
Well,
in
actually-
chapter 6, when you go into the control room to kill one of the lung guys, it will show Nicole's face on every monitor saying "Make us whole," and then a skull comes through her face and then cuts out.
I actually knew about that twist beforehand because like
That's
uh,
a famous twist that
yeah,
I think
I'd
a lot of
watched-
people know about.
I had watched like a review by this guy I've watched for like a decade now, probably
Mandalore?
if not more. No, there's this guy I watched called The Completionist, where his whole thing is that he just 100% completes a game and talks about how difficult it was. At this rate,
Yeah.
he's done like over 400 games. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I'm gonna
But, like,
be on his pace soon enough.
a long time ago, he did one on Dead Space, and I remember like from a decade back watching that, and that was like one of the only things I remembered. It was like, oh yeah, I'm pretty sure his girlfriend is like dead the whole time.
The,
Well, it's because if you take the first initial,
Oh my Burke, you beat me to it.
you take it.
It's the first initial of every chapter title. It spells out Nicole is dead. Which is just a funny Easter egg because you don't realize it until the last section.
Yeah.
And I'm sure
And
people looking at the chapter titles, some guy figured that out and must have been like, "Oh man, this is actually an Easter egg."
And then what's amazing is on Extraction for the Wii, they do the other big plot twist through the chapter titles as well.
Hmm.
What is the plot twist on the Wii?
On the Wii, it's just there's a character that's not who they say they are, so it's
Oh.
character lies.
It's classic Dead Space twist.
Yeah.
That's not. I will say they really did, because Titus, now that you mentioned it, like the way they built up Hammond as the villain, it was heavy, super heavy handed. Of like, Kendra's like, I don't trust him. I think he has ulterior motives. I mean, he was kind of acting weird. Like,
Yeah, he was sketch.
all this necromorph stuff was going on. He was trying to go about it like, we got to repair the ship as usual. It's like at a certain point, you should be like, no, can we just jettison an escape pod and wait for rescue?
Listen, man, he's got to feed his
All right.
kids, you know.
Here's an attention-paying test, or whatever you would call it. Were you upset that Hammond jettisoned an escape pod with a necromorph on it instead of using it?
I noticed
did
that too.
remember that,
I thought about that. I'm like, one of us could have used that.
Congratulations, you failed the test. It's damaged.
And that came back. That came back and bought him the. God, that.
So the life support on it didn't work, which is why they weren't using it.
Oh, was that the
So-
excuse? But the necromorph.
And
was
then
able
also
to
they needed as a
survive.
MacGuffin to bring the fucking military ship in.
Yeah, I love that. I love how that's such a good like callback, because it's like you jettison that escape pod, and then all of a sudden the military pick it up. It's like, oh, there must be someone in here. It's like, don't open that escape pod, and you're too late, and the ship just crashes right into the Ishimura.
One alien versus an entire army. I guess the alien wins.
Yeah. Now that you say that, they should have been.
Yeah, versus man with local tool gun.
Have you seen the damage that tool gun does?
I know, you can one-shot any arm off most necromorphs.
if you have it upgraded. I noticed the
Who's
line
got-
gun didn't. I liked the line gun, but it did surprisingly little damage than I remember.
The
would take-
mines are the bread and butter for that
It would
thing.
take a couple shots to, and I couldn't figure out the mines. I couldn't get the timing of them.
5 seconds.
Yeah. But yeah, the plot was, I mean, it was standard for a horror game. Looking back on it, I've much prefer this plot to Dead Space 2, and we don't even talk about 3.
Well, from what
Two-
you guys say, they jumped the shark, so it makes sense that this would be better.
2, they tried a little too hard. They tried to give in all these wacky, unique characters, and then they tried to make Isaac himself a character, which
I
doesn't
like
work.
Isaac's character.
I do not. I like Isaac, and maybe that's because I'm like an old school FPS fan. I love when FPS characters do not say a word, because you can project yourself into them. They don't become whiny, annoying babies. I don't know if you guys have played Far Cry 3.
No.
Far Cry 3 is an amazing game that is completely ruined because of the voice actor they gave for the main character, who plays
Oh,
this
not Alan Wake?
Who plays this whine. Alan Wake is probably up there too. Alan Wake is just funny, hearing that voice actor say really bad dialogue in a really monotone voice. Anyway, Far Cry 3 has just a whiny protagonist who like ruins the whole game. I prefer my characters to stay silent, and I like how with Isaac you understand like he kind of has a character, but he's also an insert for the player. While in the other ones, by the time he gets to Dead Space 3, he's just this annoying, pouty baby, even though he's like should be in his 50s by that point. But
he's
I don't
been
know.
through a lot, dude.
I'm just saying
They did the same thing. So I talked about Condemned Criminal Origins. They did the same thing to that character, where in the first game he was kind of just a normal dude. Like, and that's what I liked about him, is how he was a normal guy and he was relatable. And then in the sequel they made him into this edgy loner who he doesn't like anybody, and he's always grumpy and he's always angsty, and it's like it loses interest in me. Like, you just turned him into like an edgy teenager. That's kind of, I don't know. I don't like that.
Well, I'll agree to disagree for Isaac and Dead Space 2 because I actually liked him a lot, especially "fuck you" and "fuck your marker." I think that's the perfect summary. I think it's a perfect summary of this character. I love that
because it's so absurd. It's so stupid.
Reminds me of that one. That reminds me of that line of that really famous quote that keeps getting memed from that like '90s movie about like the end times, and then the protagonist says like, "I don't have your stone and fuck you anyway," or something like that's what it reminds me of. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what that reminds me of. I thought the characters, honestly, the characters were the most interesting part. Like, the audio logs, I basically like half paid attention to, because like I'd try and listen to them, but sometimes it'd just be like, okay, I will stand here patiently and listen to it, and then something like an event would trigger on accident, like, and then it'd be like, oh, okay, I guess the audio is gone. All right, it cuts out. All right, well, moving on then. I guess I don't get to hear it.
There were some funny, heavy-handed ones. I can't remember what they were, and I really wish I could remember them. Of like, I remember laughing at some of them of the audio logs. Oh gosh, I wish I could remember. One of my favorites
was one of Jacob's where he's trying to fix something, and then this guy goes, "Oh my god, he's pulling his teeth out," and it just cuts right there.
That was it. That was the one I was thinking of.
I think I remember that one.
There's so many good ones, but like, yeah.
Or I would like to note that I am really upset that we can't give our food to the people on the planet, and then you just hear her get thwacked.
I don't even remember the background characters' names, but like there's the captain. Remember when they're basically staging a mutiny, and doesn't the doctor shoot the captain on accident, and then he goes,
he stabs him in the eye by accident,
and then he's like, "You're under arrest, you're under arrest, doctor." Like, it was so funny.
And he's like, "Wait, I didn't mean to do that," but like the people, the security was like, "Yeah, but you did it." So
that is
I feel like the captain was one of the few sympathetic named characters.
No, he's an asshole if you read his captain's log.
He was a unitologist.
Oh, right.
So the whole like back lore is that more than like 60% of the crew were unitologists.
I mean, that would make sense considering.
Well, no, specifically for that mission. Like, they filled out a lot of different people that used to be working on the ship.
Yeah, I read that log, yeah.
Yeah. And they just kind of geared it up to be this, like, they knew they were sending people to the marker
to be not existed anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you learn more about the unitologists in the other games. Which I never quite liked. It was an interesting idea to have people who worshipped the marker, but I don't think they quite pulled it off. Especially by the time they get to Dead Space 3, then
Dead Space 3, it just becomes goofy.
It's Elton John.
Time.
It's Elton John leading his.
Yeah,
cult.
I'm glad you also enjoy Indie Mouse.
I was just surprised.
No, I got that from Mandalore. He's the one who pointed that out.
They both make that joke though.
Yeah.
I was just surprised because as the token JRPG guy, I was not coming into a horror shooter thinking, oh yeah, the villain is gonna be the government / a vaguely shaded version of a real world religion. I wasn't I wasn't expecting that from a shooter. I wasn't
Government-
expecting. I was like, oh, I guess that villain's gonna be something different this time. I wonder what it's gonna. Oh, okay.
The government
Well,
/ religion.
yeah, I was like, okay. I mean, I guess.
That's always the fun part, though, about like the early 2000s was that it was such like don't trust the government, don't trust religion.
I mean, it's still pretty much that.
I know, but like that was
But,
the age where that shit was getting out of control.
And it depends on who was making it too.
Yeah.
You play Call of Duty, and it's like the government's great, military's great. But I didn't
Sponsored by the Navy SEALs.
that twist where it turns out the marker was made by the government. I don't really like that. I like the idea of the marker being this, and maybe just because I love sci-fi and I love simple stories, and to me, I love the simple idea that there's this alien. It's basically a monolith, just this alien monolith, this alien obelisk that just fucks up the crew and turns them into these space zombies. I like that. That's so creepy. But there's apparently a real. From Dead Space 1, we learn, there's a real monolith, but this isn't it. This is one made by the government who kind of messed up making it, which is why it creates necromorphs and not humans. And it's weird. But then Dead Space 3 contradicts that, because they say that the markers were made by aliens who intended to make necromorphs. It's like a weird life cycle. Burke probably knows more about it than me.
I'm about to say, you want to go down this rabbit hole, man?
It just felt like, the whole like weird cult that worships like a creepy like eldritch alien thing, like
I think that's all you
like
need.
a deity. That was already creepy. Making it like bringing in like also the government bad in the middle of it. I was like you didn't need that. I mean,
like what, and this is why I think a Dead Space reboot that could maybe just simplify the story, because all you need is a creepy planet, and I like how they set that up, is a planet that the government quarantined. They were trying to keep people away from it, which is why when those soldiers were coming in, they weren't necessarily there to rescue. They probably weren't there to rescue you. They were probably there to wipe out the ship. This mining company decided, this is a lucrative business. Let's just sneak into this territory and start mining.
it's free real estate.
But turns out the reason it's blockade is because there's a marker there. That should have been the plot. It should have been government finds a spooky marker, abandons the whole planet, and quarantines it off, and then we unknowingly dig it back up. That should be it. It's just like 2001. Like they dig up the monolith on the moon. That's like the creepiest part of that whole movie, is when they're walking into this excavation site and the monolith is just standing there.
Could you imagine if like tomorrow NASA was just like, yeah, so we found like this building on the moon. And it's got text on it. We don't know what it is.
We found a rectangular prism monolith that is.
There's been a series
these very specific proportions, perfectly smooth, made out of an unknown metal alloy.
Leave it alone. Don't touch it.
Leave it
Just
alone.
leave it there. Do not research it. That is Pandora's box, but like sci-fi version. Don't touch it.
Okay, I got like
Pandora's
3 points to say here. First of all, there's been a series of art pieces being made around the world of monoliths being quote-unquote discovered as part of an internet trend. There has been a recent thing in NASA where they're developing how people would react to extraterrestrial life through various cultures surveys, which conspiracy theorists are going nuts about, thinking that they have discovered alien life. And thirdly, the Dead Space story, I actually like it this way because the black marker is what makes moons. And then the government tried to make one, realized it does the same fucking thing, put it in a fuck off zone. And the story was that other societies had fallen the same way due to the black markers as our human race was falling to red markers.
But why do we need to make a moon? We already have a moon.
No.
So we want less of a tide.
So explain the story, Burke. I still disagree. I think that's the government making a marker. Just feels like they needed another twist. It feels like they needed a bigger twist.
They needed to find. Well, all right. I've read the book, so I know a little more than the games even tell you. Basically, every natural resource on Earth is fucked when the marker is found, and then it makes a lot of energy. But this makes necromorphs. Why don't we just make our own that has the same thing but doesn't make the necromorphs? Oh shit, that didn't work out either.
I mean, I get
And
that.
then they made planet cracking a thing, and it was kind of this alternative. It was basically they were buying time to figure out how to perfect the marker research.
Sounds like a terrible idea. So I totally believe a fictional government would do it.
Yes, that's exactly what happens. That's quite
Weird.
literally it. They kill planets to make their own, which is ironic because necromorphs, when they become the moon, eat planets to keep themselves sustained.
It's like it's a parallel.
Yeah, it
Except
Guys,
it's except it's
Are
stupider.
we the virus? Are we the virus?
it's all cyclical in nature.
Does anyone else think mankind is the virus? Please
Oh my God,
upvote.
guys, this is kind of deep, guys. Oh my God.
This is so deep. Oh my gosh, we're the monster all along.
As
We're
someone
the
who is a monster,
we're the necromorph.
humanity is the monster.
As someone who just prefers simple stories that are not stupid and dumb.
Yeah,
Dead
you
Space,
like stories that are simple and clean.
if a Dead Space reboot were to occur, I think they just need to clean up the story. Get rid of that. Get rid of the moons. Get rid of the whole backstory. Get rid of the government making their own marker. Just make it about alien zombies. That's all it needs to be. And then maybe give us a little bit of give us like a hive mind monster, and that's it. Like, don't go bigger than that. You go bigger than that, it's like Dead Space. It's funny going back to Dead Space 1. Like, that is absurd. Like, it raises this. It has huge stakes, like, to a hilarious degree with these giant, necromorph forms, and it's sad to think how quaint that game is compared to its sequels. Like, how absurd the sequels became after Dead Space 1.
Which already had
Which had a giant,
monsters.
it had like a giant worm monster that was the size of a building attacking Isaac on a planet.
Well, you know what the real crazy thing was, and I do admit, like, looking back at it, the original red marker put all the necromorphs into stasis. Basically, it chilled them out. The red marker literally made the necromorphs shut the fuck up.
I don't know.
Wait.
You're listing
Then why
like red
didn't-
markers and black markers. It's
Then
like,
why didn't they-
That's what the thing is. The black marker. I'm just gonna make the easiest storytelling. Red
Right.
marker's the artificial ones, and they always come out red because it's not made of the same material as the black marker. That's it.
Mhm.
okay.
If that's the case, then why didn't they turn in? Why didn't they said red light means stop, and then while they said red light means stop, they went in and like exterminated them all?
Because then you got to read the web comics, because the natural dead organic material of anything gets fucking animated by it's
Dead
dumb.
Space, or is this
remember
Dead
how when-
Space, or is this Fate? Like, what?
Remember
what
how-
is this lore?
Remember how when we said how I made fun of the fact that they tried to make Dead Space into a Halo franchise, a franchise rivaling Halo? This is why Dead Space could never be a franchise rivaling Halo, because to understand it's full of this. You got to read the webcomic, and you got to play the side game, and you got to watch the animated show, and then you also got to play the DLC that explains it all.
I never want to hear that.
If you want me to go down that rant,
I never
if you
want to
go down that rant. There is it's a really cool plot point in Extraction, is that there are some humans that are immune to the psychological effects of the marker, because it does make everyone go crazy to kill themselves or kill other people.
This sounds like the setup to like a terrible reboot with like a few more. Never mind. I was gonna make a really bad joke. I was gonna make a bad joke about how that sounds like a Mary Sue character. I'm immune to the marker. By the way,
no, but here's the thing. She's like, fuck all useful in combat and shit. The whole game of Extraction is to protect this one character.
does she get extracted? No,
Yes.
she dies at the end, right?
No, because
the ending is you turning into a necromorph.
that is the character your character who shoots the gun turns into a necromorph who gets killed by her at the very end. Because the DLC to Dead Space 2 is where you get to play the other survivor of Dead Space Extraction, and your whole point is to once again save her and the baby.
The baby.
The
I mean,
baby. And the DLC was fucking
It
cool.
is Metroid.
It is. It's Metroid,
And-
but stupider.
I love hearing you two tear apart like my favorite franchise right now.
No,
Oh,
I'm
you're
not.
good.
I don't even actually dislike. I'm just goofing.
Burke, you haven't seen nothing yet. We got Kingdom Hearts next.
I know.
Listen, I don't
I'm
want to
just
hear
saying.
it after saying web comics and the books and the manhwas. I don't want to hear it about the Kingdom Hearts story.
You can play Halo 1 start to finish and understand that story without needing to read a single novel.
You can play
you
Dead
that
Space
with
without
Kingdom
doing that either, too. Like,
Yeah, I'm talking about he's bringing up like extra lore outside of the first game, and
well,
that's why
you
I'm
were
saying-
asking me to cover an entire story instead of just Dead Space.
That is Dead Space. Why isn't it just Dead Space?
Well,
If they wanted it to be lore, why didn't they put it in the games, Burke?
it's all you can find all the lore in the text files in the games.
I never knew, by the way, before we started this, I never knew one person could be a Dead Space nerd until Burke is now explaining all this lore that I thought would have been a joke had you said this to me like 3 hours ago.
Dude, just wait until we have the Power Rangers discussion podcast. I'll tell you
Oh god,
what.
we're never doing that.
We will have it. I'm into this.
Oh, based.
I'm going to yeah, you're gonna be like
So then the time-
Rocco in that
so
Mega 64.
Yeah, so then the timeline split to the dimension where dinosaurs still exist and the one where they don't. And then
Do you remember when Mega 64 made fun of Linkara for doing his Power Rangers thing and they copied his video?
okay, look,
did
I'm
you
not
think
Made
I'm
it,
actually
they made it sound so absurd.
I'm not like a fan
I
of
love those
Linkara.
guys.
But like, I'm not like I have no strong opinions on Linkara either way. I will say like there is so little like Power Rangers content for Power Rangers fans on
You have
YouTube.
to take what you can get.
Unironically, he is one of the more comprehensive like Power Rangers content creators, despite not even being a Power Rangers content creator. So like, you take what you can get. Like,
Yeah.
also, I don't know. I never watched his old stuff. And those are the only videos of his I've watched. I don't really have an opinion on the guy. I just know Oni Plays made jokes about him, and like he got mad about it or something. I don't know.
They made jokes about him and Doug took it really well, and was really funny about it to the point where Oni even mentioned that. But Linkara took it really bad. Badly.
I still haven't seen Smiling Friends. I still need to watch it.
Oh, it's good. It's really good. I didn't know, so I knew Mike Staclaza because he obviously Red Letter Media. I knew he was a voice actor. He's apparently a producer.
Of Smiling Friends?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love seeing
Really-
internet people succeed.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
Anyways, that has nothing
exactly.
to do
Anyway,
with Dead Space.
We're at the 3 hour mark, gentlemen. Let's bring this home.
All right. Well, I mean, we talked about how it should be rebooted. I think it should be rebooted through just simplify the story, get rid of all that, get rid of those web comics. Don't make a web comic. If I see a guy who's
cool, though.
if I see a guy who's like, well, we're gonna explain this in the web comic. Get rid of him. Get him out of there.
Either that or do the same thing. Like, I know you were just joking about it. Either do that or do the same thing that like Kingdom Hearts did, where they realized how hard it was to keep track of stuff. So they literally released all of it together in one big collection. Like if they ever did like
That collection is so like they don't here. You know what? Here's a
It's meaty. It's meaty. It's so much content.
look. Halo Master Chief
a lot
Collection.
of content doesn't mean
do you
good
want,
content.
Do you know what those games are called, Titus? It's called Halo, and then Halo 2, and then Halo 3, and then Halo 4. They don't have those. All of those Kingdom Hearts games. It's Kingdom Hearts 1.5, Kingdom Hearts Final Mix,
Look,
Kingdom
I said
Hearts
nothing.
HD. It's like which one?
I said
Titus,
nothing.
Titus,
I didn't.
the first Kingdom Hearts game the first game to play is the one that's called Final Mix. Why is it called the final one if it's the first one to play?
I didn't say anything about the naming convention making sense. That's not what I said, Andy. That's not what I said.
The collection is just. It's so convoluted.
Yes, the naming conventions are stupid, but all the games are there in order. And it's called Final Mix because it's the final like remaster of that version of the game.
It's like how there are 14. I was gonna say that's like how there are 14 Final Fantasies, but there's way more than that apparently.
No, there's way more than that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what our Kingdom Hearts discussion is gonna be like. I told Burke how with the I had that one dream where I had a dream where we were doing a Halo discussion and Titus didn't actually play the game, but he just watched the Paramount Plus show, and he was trying to he was trying to bullshit his way, and I knew he was bullshitting, but I was really uncomfortable because I'm like, the audience, people watching are gonna know he's making this up. And Burke, it's just Burke was confused, and Titus is like, yeah, the Halo is that show where the guy takes off his helmet and Cortana just looks like a normal woman. I'm like, no, Titus, don't say that.
Yeah, that one. You know, it was a bold choice of them to get Dwayne the Rock Johnson to play Cortana, but you know, I gotta say, like, it worked out. It worked out. You know,
they couldn't even make Cortana blue. They couldn't even make her blue. And then there's a shot in the trailer where there's like a Chevy, like SUV in the background.
It's the same logic as like when they make superhero adaptations, right? Is that they're so hesitant to just like be like, yes, they wear like costumes that are inherently kind of silly. The
well, like it's not
silly.
Like Cortana's, I mean, you'll see that when you play the game. Like her costume, it's like she doesn't even have a. It's like she has like a tech suit and she's blue, like she's a hologram. Like,
I know.
Doesn't look goofy at all.
I know it's not silly, but what I'm saying is like to these like completely out of touch executives, they're like, what? There's a blue person on the little thing? No, that's stupid. Just make her a grown ass woman. Just make her a full grown non-hologram. That's weird. You know, like they don't get it.
And yeah, there's a female orphan who's adopted by the Covenant, and they turn her into like a Covenant
mistress chief,
which is literally sickening because that goes against everything the Covenant stood for. But what were we saying? Oh, the reboot. Burke, what do you think about that remake that they teased once and we haven't seen any content since?
Like I think I've been over this. I think they blew their load early trying to be like, we're going to do all this. We're going to revive all the content and all this. And I'm like, all right, man. Like, I'll wait another year or two because what scares me is they announced a deadline. Like, we're going to spend a whole year fixing this up before we talk about it again, and it'll be out by then. You're like, just a year?
So we have to wait even longer.
When did that get announced?
Oh, whenever they stopped making the content announcements on Twitter. So
did they? I didn't
probably
even
a year ago.
I don't even remember content announcements. I remember like back, yeah, it would have been a year ago, like back during the fall. Like, because I remember thinking like, oh, they teased this. Surely that means Dead Space, the remake, will be out soon. But then here we are, and nothing's been announced.
Andy, how would you feel if the reboot released and
you
got it day one?
Oh no!
And it was a visual novel dating sim. How would you feel about that?
That'd be pretty. It'd be unique as a remake. It wouldn't be the worst remake. Let me tell you. I mean, we have the GTA classic trilogy, so
That's
it wouldn't
true,
be the worst one out there.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
It is. I mean, it's literally. Oh, go ahead.
Started making announcements on
God.
November.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I vaguely remember it being around Halloween, and I remember thinking like, well, they're just gonna remake Dead Space, because I think at a certain point I was like, I should replay Dead Space, but everybody else was streaming it, and I'm like, I'll just wait for the reboot.
So the reboot got announced. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Got announced like I want to say it was announced in October, like in the fall, and we haven't heard anything since.
It's not that long.
It really isn't. I mean,
meanwhile,
but it's like, a hollow victory, because it's like, as we said before, Visceral is no longer a thing. Like, it's not going to be Visceral. Who even is the developer, Bert? Do you even know?
It's called Motive.
Motive. Does it are they like made up of anybody like of note?
I'm looking that up right now. I am seeing that actually a couple of the folks from Visceral Studio are actually kind of hyped to see this.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say they're in that studio, but they're hyped to see it.
Motive Studio.
Looks
like
this might be like a.
It's a Canadian video game developer based in Montreal. Let's see their history.
I've been waiting on a game.
I mean,
they made. Hey! Guess what they made? Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Oh no.
Star Wars Squadrons.
Oh no. It's gonna be Star Wars.
And supposedly we're gonna get in 2022 Dead Space.
Oh, so it's no longer visceral, which is already like, this isn't Dead Space anymore. Like, this is a brand. EA killed Dead Space, and as a result, they killed this entire studio, laying everybody off.
Quote,
and now
it will be the same vein as the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I actually wasn't a big fan.
I like the Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah, I thought a lot of people liked that game.
But I don't think they're going to. I think I can guarantee this. Here's my famous Andy predictions, which so far I have been right. I've literally been right about all my predictions. I predicted Halo Infinite. Everybody would leave the honeymoon period like within 2 weeks of the game launching, and here we are with a tenth of its original player base. Anyway, that's besides the point. Here's my Andy prediction, which is super obvious. It shouldn't even be a prediction. That game is going to launch. Burke, that game is going to launch in the most glitchy, unplayable state that we have ever seen for a Dead Space game. It is going to be hilarious. You're going to have videos on YouTube of people showing off You've seen how the bodies glitch on the PC version, like in Dead Space 1. Can you imagine what Dead Space the remake is going to be like?
So
it's going to
I don't
be
know
so
if you
glitchy.
recall how bad Star Wars Battlefront 2 was when it came out initially.
I remember that. I remember those days. I own it.
I am secretly hoping it is as messy as that.
Just so
because
they don't make more.
Imagine the fucking clips you could make.
At least the Internet Historian video will be good.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be. I mean, it's easy because it's not multiplayer. Multiplayer is where things break down. That's where developers show that they do not know how to handle networking. They don't understand that. But I think it's going to be hilarious. It's going to be so broken and glitchy. But it's sad because it's EA just parading around this dead corpse, and they're like, "Look, Dead Space is back." After we killed it.
It's funny you say parading a corpse around, because that's what the whole game is, parading corpses.
It is a parade of corpses, and you're going after someone who is dead. Did they explain that? Because you see the video where she kills herself, where she does the
at the very
injection.
end.
When did he get? Did he only get that video at the very end?
So you get the video at the very beginning, and then Kendra's like, "How many times you've watched that? Guess you really miss her." Well, we'll have to see her when we get on board. And then it kind of plays that same clip over and over throughout the game. But Kendra basically, when you're stuck in the decontamination room, is like, "Watch the video."
But like, so did he just only watch the first part of it, and he didn't?
Yeah, and apparently never finished it, or couldn't finish it after he watched it the first time, and was in like an emotional shock. Take your pick, dealer's choice.
Must have gone insane.
Well, that's because she thinks Isaac's insane too for that.
That is I just realized we're literally living. The people who are excited for this are literally Isaac in Dead Space, because we have a corpse who was shown to us, who's dead, and we're like, "Oh my gosh, she's still alive." Dead Space, she's still alive, my love. It's like, no, Dead Space has been dead for a long time. You're just showing up. You're gonna see the corpse of it in a few months. We're literally living the events of Dead Space.
Yeah, I was here for the Gen 4 remakes. I know how that feels.
Oh my gosh, what are they gonna remake Gen 5, Titus?
Considering there's literally the Gen 5 and then the sequels, I highly doubt it. Which means, because there's no way they could pull it off, which means they're going to do it, and it's going to be even worse than Gen 4's remakes.
They're gonna try to combine.
They're really gonna take the best games they ever made objectively and make them the worst.
Like, how do you think they're gonna do? Oh, do you think there'll be Do you think there will be a seasonal thing in the Gen 5 remakes, just like with Black and White 1?
Maybe.
Okay. Do you think Game Freak would go? Do you think they'd go out of their way to try to program that? Modern Game Freak.
It won't be Game Freak. It'll be that new, really cheapy company that they got to do Gen 4's remakes.
I forgot that. I forgot they have a new company for that.
Maybe they'll pull Legends Arceus and give us a good Gen 4 base game Gen 5 base game to go instead to make up for it.
You know it's not gonna happen.
I know. Let me listen. Also, by the way, y'all are out here like, oh man, Dead Space. They haven't said anything. It's only been like 3 months. Like, y'all don't understand. Don't understand. I've been waiting 4 years for Digimon Survive to get a release date. We literally just got a 6-hour-long convention stream the other day, only for them to tell us still no release date, also no news in this whole 6-hour stream on anything related to the franchise.
Were people
Like,
just skimming the stream of like,
yeah.
there's got to be information somewhere.
Y'all don't know the literally the only announcement they made was we're releasing repaints of the same toys you've been getting in America for the past 3 years. We're dubbing that anime from 2020 that no one really liked that much because it was really mid. Also, here's a guy from the American team cheating at the trading card tournament. That's it. That's all they did. That's all they showed.
What community is in the lead for least content? Like still waiting out on their content? Because I would have said like Half-Life a few years ago, but now we have Half-Life Alyx.
F-Zero.
Like,
F-Zero.
Yeah.
That is
yeah. Yeah. They made F-Zero for the GameCube was so good they didn't have to make any other ones.
Dude, just port it, man. I will take a port with some extra maps. If you could gallivant saying, we made more Mario Kart 8 maps, you could make more F-Zero maps.
What are you, insane? Do you know how much people would want that? How much sense that makes? Are you insane? God, next you're gonna say they should like port Mother 3. Are you crazy?
Can I be honest?
Yeah.
I never really liked F-Zero.
That's fair.
I never really played F-Zero.
I play F-Zero. In those types of games, I play them. Do you know what happens, Burke? I slam into the left wall and then I slam into the right wall, and that's all I do the entire racetrack. I've never gotten the hang of those games.
I mean, to be fair,
See,
you
didn't
have cars where you're from, so I mean, to be fair.
Hold on. It's also like I personally really enjoy the games where it's like you're going 2,000 kilometers per hour, and if you twitch the wrong way once, you'll be 3 ways from Sunday.
And I don't like that.
Like I grew up as a pod racer kid.
Oh, you would have played you would have played that, wouldn't you?
I
Episode
did
1 Pod Racer.
I did winner take
That was
all
a solid
every race for the campaign. I did. If you didn't get first, you got no money.
I've never been into racing. I never liked racing games.
I got something. People who are eating even worse than F-Zero. Ice Climber fans.
That doesn't deserve it.
All 6 of them.
Yeah, all 6. Bro, I'm friends with one of them. Like,
Ice Climbers is not even a good fucking game. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I was about to say with Burke.
Golden Sun, maybe? I don't know.
Golden Sun's pretty good.
Yeah.
All I remember is it was the game that graphic snobs would use
Are you
for
telling me
fucking
that
GBA.
fucking Game & Watch games should have more games too?
No, Game & Watch is boring to me, but that's because they were literally made before video games were like much of a thing.
I like how if you rewatch when that Smash Ultimate revealed, where's that place in New York? There's like some Nintendo store in New York, I think, where they do all those live like showcases.
Yeah, the New York store. I've been there. It's cool.
They did that. They reacted to the trailer of Smash Bros. Ultimate, and people fucking cheered when they saw the Ice Climbers. I'm like, who cares? Who cares?
Dude, people love the Ice Climbers, especially people who play competitively.
I was to say,
Like,
only people who like other people's suffering enjoy Ice Climbers. Ice Climbers, all you do is wobble. It's all you fucking do. And when they do it, you don't get to play the game for that entire stock. Listen, I've done competitive, so I hate Ice Climbers.
Also, just because you're not a fan of like the game or the franchise the character's from doesn't mean you can't like the character. Like, I love Kirby. I couldn't really care less about the Kirby games.
I love Kirby too. I'm excited for the new one where he swallows a car.
Yeah.
And it looks really grotesque the way
it looks
he's
cute.
like.
I might actually play that one.
I like how the main enemies, they really don't address it. How you're just eating enemies and killing them.
Oh well, they've like, dude, do you not know the meme about the Kirby lore?
I do not know the Kirby lore.
The Kirby lore is like eldritch, some eldritch shit. Like, literally in lore, Kirby is like basically a part of an eldritch abomination. He basically has infinite power to do whatever he wants. Canonically, when he gets knocked out in a game, he's not actually getting defeated. He just gets tired of trying and gives up. That's not like a joke. That's like actually canonically what's happening in the game. Like, Kirby is quite literally unstoppable.
Is that because they wanted to put in an eldritch lore behind this character, or is it because they were making a kid's game and they're like, well, we can't have Kirby die,
No, like
It's-
if you actually play the games, there's like actual real lore. I haven't played it.
Oh, you cut out there for a sec, Titus. Oh, are you guys saying anything? Why are you both silent? What happened? Uh-oh. Well, we've gone on to a silent stream by myself. This is a solo, just chatting stream. I don't know what happened. Discord got drunk. Yeah, it did. It did confuse Biscuit. I like seeing Titus look angry. I can't hear a word you guys are saying. Whoa.
Now I can hear you.
What happened? Why did you guys... Burke, why are you silent now, Burke?
Because I'm waiting for you to talk.
Okay. Were you just silent that entire time, not saying anything?
No, you got so from our perspective, you got disconnected from the Discord group because I could hear Titus go on his Kirby rant.
Okay, I didn't hear anything. I didn't hear any of that.
I literally heard this boo-doop, and I'm like, uh-oh, we lost somebody. And I
How
go to
did
look
I-
over, I'm like, oh, it probably lost Titus. And then I said it's
How
Andy.
did I
and then-
lose? Yeah, how did I lose connect? I mean, the stream was still up for me because Confused Biscuit
Yeah,
was in there chatting.
Yeah, it's up on my side too. It's weird.
Huh. I guess just Discord doesn't like when you rant about Kirby, and
Yeah.
quite frankly,
Mr.
nobody else does.
Mr. Sakurai himself.
You've been
come down
disconnected.
to-
Yeah,
Fix
yeah.
your network.
All you need,
Um,
literally just watch the terminal montage Kirby videos. That's basically the lore. Kirby could beat Bayonetta in a fight. That's literally all that you need to know. And he's adorable the whole time.
Could he beat Bayonetta in a fight in death battles?
Unironically, yeah, probably.
I mean,
Like-
Kirby could beat Dante, so...
And people
Yeah.
would get really salty about it and complain
I mean-
about that video for years after it's released.
I mean, Kirby beat like a really powerful Dragon Ball character in a death battle. So, and they shill the hell out of Dragon Ball characters. So like, yeah, probably.
Yeah, Kirby could canonically beat Boo, according to them.
I mean, Kirby is literally a black hole, but like a person. So,
A black hole, but like a person.
I mean, like.
Oh, you mean,
literally-
what's her name? The VTuber.
Oh yeah. Can Kirby defeat Mori Calliope in a fight? Death battle? Let's go. Bro, when are we gonna see a VTuber on Death Battle? Could you fucking imagine?
It's gonna happen eventually.
It's gonna cause so much drama. Do you have any idea?
They're purposely gonna pick from different agencies, like a character, like a VTuber
Oh my
from
god, you know that.
like a VTuber from like Hololive versus V Shoujo or something like that. You know.
I want to see who'd win in a fight, Connor or Booby, or Bubby, right? However the hell you pronounce that.
Alright,
Booby-
alright.
It's Booby, right?
Yeah, Booby's a demon from hell, but Connor's British, so he has an unfair advantage. They
He's
like
a cringe
conquer.
advantage.
Yeah, they've conquered a lot of stuff in history. You know, I don't know.
Just throw their
They-
tea
they-
into a
they've
harbor and
lost
then
a
you
lot of
win.
stuff,
But
too.
anyway,
It's true.
How's that empire going now, huh? No.
let's wrap this
shouldn't.
shit up and let's go home.
The
USA. That's what Andy's out here doing.
I know. I love making fun of Brits because I know a Brit and I love making fun of him to his face.
British?
British.
I don't even know what we're talking. Oh, the reboot.
We're not even talking about Dead Space anymore.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Wrap this up. We're no
What is,
longer here.
What is So what's Dead Space, Burke? No,
It's a good game. You should play it.
it's a game. The reboot is probably going to be terrible. It's not even being made by Visceral. Why even care? Would it?
Look,
I think
I
the more I
have
thought.
the-
Oh, go ahead.
Here's my final thoughts. Mercury managed to pull off Metroid Dread.
Yes.
I'm just hoping that's the case for this. That's all I'm going to put my argument on.
Except Nintendo did not. Well, I guess Nintendo tried to kill Metroid a couple times with Federation Force and other M, but I was gonna say, like, EA explicitly killed Dead Space. Like that was entirely not Visceral. That was EA who did that, and they still have Dead Space. So it's like they're not going, as long as EA holds on to that franchise, Dead Space is not going to be the horror game that people remember it from. They want Dead Space to be this watered down, garbage that can appeal to anybody who. Dead Space 3 was made for people who didn't like horror games. Like, that's how bad it came. That's how bad EA was.
Oh, one of those, huh?
So I'm wondering, I think the only way that you can make a proper Dead Space is I don't think it'll be a Dead Space. I think it has to be just a spiritual successor. Hopefully, I don't know what the Visceral guys are doing now. I don't know what studio they've all moved on to.
Wasn't there? Oh god, there was a remake that was like that basically, and I can't remember the name of the development studio, but it was by some of the people who made it. Fuck, I'm gonna have to look this up.
So what you're saying is, in order for there to be another good Dead Space game, there basically needs to be like a bloodstain to Castlevania, but in Dead Space form?
Yes.
Basically. Burke is looking that up. But yeah, like
I'm not pulling it up. It's not on the
Oh.
web anymore.
Okay. Yeah, like EA is not going to be the one to make it. That Dead Space 4, if it even is going to happen, which it won't, they'll just make Dead Space. They'll make Dead Space TM, and that'll be it. They'll probably do what they did with Battlefront. They'll make Dead Space a reboot, and then they'll make Dead Space 2 TM. And then people will get confused whenever you say, I like Dead Space 2. And it's like, I like Dead Space 1. It's like, no, not the new one, the old one.
Well, you just say the year number after the title, then.
You
They
have
OG
to
Dead
say
Space.
The OG.
Like,
OG space.
so here's my question to you two, as fans of the series. Like, if you could pick, then, optimally, you could hand off the rights to make this reboot to any, currently active, game developer of your choice, who would it be?
I almost
Who would
said a
do the
really
best
cocky
job?
answer.
You go first, Burke.
I was like, well, I'm in the midst of making a horror game. I would like to have the reins to it, but
That is a very cocky answer.
but the truth is, I honestly thought I would like to see Mercury's take on it, because I
Really?
think they always. I think Metroid Dread was a really good idea overall, and I think that Mercury actually handles source material really respectively.
I have a controversial pick. At least controversial probably to Burke, since he's made it clear. Actually, you've said that you don't really like their newer games. But I still think they're pretty good. I think the current team who's in charge of Resident Evil would make an excellent Dead Space.
I don't think that'd be a bad call. It's not that the gameplay or anything of Resident Evil 2 remakes are bad. It's just they keep cutting out the content that I always particularly enjoyed in those games, and those get axed the hardest, it seems. It seems like the remake team that's currently in development of Resident Evil in general.
Yeah,
No,
so
even
how many
RE7 or
teams?
RE8.
So how many teams are in charge? Because I know I was thinking of like Resident Evil 8 and 7. Like that team would probably make a killer Dead Space sequel, which is hilarious because Dead Space came from Resident Evil, so it'd be like full
I
circle.
just, as long as they get rid of the stupid ass blocking mechanic in RE7 and RE8, I think it'll be fine.
Yeah, those are the only people who I'd trust. Or Visceral. I mean, you could try Visceral, but like, who knows if they'd even make the same game again.
Give them the Bungie. I want to see what they do.
Oh god, Bungie. They'd make it into like a giant MMO where you have to pay for armor coatings.
Then you could finally make that space cracker Ishimura, except it would take 10 million years.
You have to, that's DLC that you have to pay for.
Oh.
I like that. Just a sad reaction from Titus. Isn't modern gaming so much fun? But I think Capcom
That's
might.
why I only play. That's why
make a
90% of
decent
the
Dead
games I
Space.
play are from Japan, bro.
That's why all the games I play are at least like 10 years old. I was playing fucking Bad Company last night. But yeah, it's sad. Dead Space is never gonna. It's never coming back. And I think Dead Space fans, especially Burke, need to kind of understand that it's not coming back, and it's dead, and we're never gonna be able to revive it.
You make it sound like I haven't accepted this fatality years ago.
I just feel people have not accepted the fate. They accepted it but then they saw the reboot, like a little shiny key, and they're like, "Oh, it's back! Dead Space is back!" It's like, no, it's still dead.
I'll tell you the exact moment I knew Dead Space died. It was when the Dead Space 3 commercial aired, and they did that remake of it.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Phil Collins, yeah.
Yeah, they did that commercial. And I'm like, this is not my fucking game anymore, is it?
It's made it into an action game. I mean, arguably Dead Space 2, when they did the "Your Mother Hates Dead Space," that's probably where it started. That's where it started for me.
I will definitely say that's where I was saying it became the RE4 to what RE5 would be, where they were trying to bank on these new formulas and all that. And it was kind of successful because I still love Dead Space 2. I love speedrunning Dead Space 2 off stream.
But yeah, it won't be the same again. I don't think we're ever. I mean, the only thing we can wish for is another horror game in a similar vein that it can improve upon it.
So this is my final comment on this. I've noticed, because I've just recently been through a lot of friction. I can never say the studio's name. The guys that did Amnesia, The Dark Descent.
Okay.
I've played Machine for Pig, and I've played Soma, both by the same studio, and I feel like they keep trying to replicate the experience that the first Amnesia did so well. And I feel that's what we're going to see with Dead Space as well. Is like they're going to be close on certain margins, but it's never going to be the exact same.
And I mean, as a developer, it shouldn't be the exact same. A developer, if you're,
you know what I'm saying, they're trying to make the same.
You make games for a long enough time, you're going to want to make different stuff, which is why, like, even if Visceral was returned, the last thing they'd want to do is make another fucking Dead Space. They'd be like, no, we want to do something else. This franchise killed us. That's why Bungie, they went from critically acclaimed, amazing single player FPS games. Immediately they're like, we want to make an MMO. We want to make a multiplayer game that has little to no story, and it's just a looter shooter. Yeah, who knows? Maybe in a few years we'll get a Dead Space spiritual successor. Probably not. I mean, it's probably just going to remain its own game. And I mean, as its own game, it still holds up. You can still play Dead Space 1. You can also play 2, and then you don't need to play 3.
Unless you're me and Sherry Wolf Goddess, who are going to be doing that next week.
How many times have you played that? I've seen you stream that game many times, Burke.
Yes, I think I'm just going to be the guy that everyone's like, I want to do a Dead Space 3 collab stream, and I'm going to be the only person that will ever return to say yes to it.
Because I've played that game once, and I have no desire to go back to it.
Here's the thing.
No desire to return to that game.
I get such a mild kick out of watching people encounter the climbing section and the suffering that comes with it. Because I am literally, once we get off stream, I'm going to be playing Dead Space 3 to beat it on classic mode. So when I show up on this other collab stream, I can just use the foam finger gun.
Does Dead Space 3 have the foam finger?
Yes.
I thought it was just 2. But
2 had it, that started
bang,
it,
bang.
and then
bang.
Bang.
It's literally that, and it's like
most powerful weapon in the game.
Doesn't it do like instant, like it instantly destroys limbs?
It instantly destroys an entire necromorph if you hit him. The only thing it doesn't kill is like some boss enemies in one shot if you use the pew pew pew, but the bang will still do it.
Bang. I love it.
Because he has a bang and a pew pew pew. You have a faster fire mode called the pew pew pew.
And it's literally him going. Pew,
yeah,
pew, pew.
it's just the voice actor doing it, which is like amazing.
It's so big.
And yet, I wish more games. This is, I guess, our final standpoint is Dead Space understood it was a very fucked up game, but there was always these moments of comedy that came out of it, and they understood like when they could make a funny joke. Like the foam finger gun. I feel that's a lost art. Oh, you did this absurdly hard difficulty mode? Oh yeah, bro, get this goofy ass foam finger gun where the voice actor was at the
like the gnome from Left 4 Dead, or like
like that zombie game series about the photographer stuck in the mall.
Frank West.
Oh, Dead Rising, one of my favorite games of all time as well.
My best friend is very, very into that game franchise.
I've covered wars,
Like that had, I love from that game. All I remember were the really hard achievements, like survive 7 days. There's one where you have to kill the exact number of zombies. The town that equaled the town's population. They mentioned
that one was such a pain because the only way you could realistically set it up on campaign was to just go into the garage and have skateboards. So when the car breaks down, because killing things with the car was the fastest way to do it, to get to the next car and then reset. Or you just do the 7-day survival. You make as many fruit smoothies as you could, and then just drive for.
With because the 7-day survival, the food does not respawn in Dead Rising.
It doesn't. Yeah.
So, and apparently the strategy is you have to kill the psychos to start getting food back.
Dead Rising co-op for Confused Biscuit.
Is there a Dead Rising co-op?
Dead Rising 2 had a co-op where you could play as Frank West and the other person who I never played because I never played after the original Dead Rising. I've wanted to play Dead Rising 2 for a long time.
For whatever reason, I had the DLC, the Off the Record, where you play as Frank West in Dead Rising 2. And then
between the two, I heard it's.
And then Dead Rising 3 was weird, and then Dead Rising 4 is they tried to reboot it, and it looks nothing like the original Dead Rising.
So, but here's the thing: any horror series that tries to get rebooted will always horrifically suffer. We've seen it with Friday the 13th. We've seen it with Nightmare on Elm Street. We've seen it with Halloween. Like any major, what was it? The Conjuring. That shit got weird too.
Did they even reboot that? I think of those movies and I still think of them as being modern horror movies, but they're probably 5 or 7 years old at this point.
They're basically made in print. Paranormal Activity is also like another print until it dies scenario.
I thought you were saying horror games. Like,
well, I'm saying they both suffer from the same fate.
Because at a certain point, the
horror genre in general suffers from reboot-itis, is what I call it.
It is a weird genre, and not many other genres suffer from it, and it's weird that it's just horror. It's weird that horror movies and just horror properties in general are known for constant reboots and failed sequels and stuff. And maybe it's just a thing where horror, it's hard to make a sequel to a horror game or just a horror movie without ruining the horror.
I think Alien to Aliens is the best example of where a horror movie can go, and then that's it.
That's it. You can't go anymore.
Like you can make a logical evolution in like the action and make the stakes higher, but the truth is, after that, it just becomes stupid.
And as is the case with a lot of sequels, they're just the first movie again, but with slightly bigger stakes. I mean, James Cameron has openly stated that Terminator 2 was just Terminator 1, but on a bigger budget. And it is. It's the exact same premise.
My grandma gets nuked in Terminator 2. That's a fun fact for you. She's one of the ladies that gets nuked on the playground.
No, really? Which one?
I know she's pushing one of the swings, and the comment that she always said was her knees really hurt because they had to practice falling over a lot.
No shit. That was her.
Yeah, that's my Gam. I'm going to call her later.
That's so bizarre. You're, wow, I'm looking at the scene right now.
Your muddiness must come from a different relative.
Yeah.
Was it on your dad's side of the family?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
The muddiness. Is that how that works?
Yeah, no, my ma comes from a long line of extras, is what we like to call it.
That's so cool.
My grandfather so my grandma and my grandfather, the one with the extras, he was the body double for the original Dracula. He's the guy in the coffin.
Wait, which one?
For one of the original Draculas.
One?
Yeah.
Like from the 30s?
My grandma's like 98.
Jeez.
Wow. That's crazy, man.
That's cool.
Kind of jealous, not gonna lie. That's really cool.
Burke is like, yeah. Burke, you're gonna grow up, make your family proud. You're gonna become the next big extra actor.
I mean,
yeah, dude.
This might be doxing myself a little, but I am in a couple TV episodes you may have seen already.
Send them to me when we're done with the stream. Anyway, are we done with Dead Space?
We're dead. We have killed this conversation.
We've killed it like a necromorph. We've cut off its limbs, and we've just kind of let it sit there.
With brutal precision, we have dismembered this once beautiful being.
We still have some viewers in here. I kind of want to go raid Cass before
Let's raid Cass
when we wrap
sure.
up. Do we have anything else to say? Anything else?
Dead Space is a game with a lot of merits. It's just not for me. And if you enjoy it, I'm very happy for you. And I'm also very genuinely sorry. Oh, that was a weird voice crack. I'm very genuinely sorry about the remake you're probably gonna get.
Oh, it's gonna be so bad.
I'm gonna play it day one, and I'm gonna stream it just to show you how angry I'm gonna be.
Another prediction that I forgot about. Another prediction. They are going to make. They're going to give some sort of cosmetic, and I don't know what it is yet. I'm tempted to say it'll be the foam finger. It might actually just be the Dead Space 2 suit. They are going to make a cosmetic that you can only get through like DLC or like pre-order.
Like they did for Dead Space 3?
I guarantee we're going to get a promo that's going to say, if you want the Dead Space 2 suit for the Dead Space 1 remake, you got to pre-order it from GameStop. Or no, they don't even pre-order from GameStop. Like it'll just be like a pre-order bonus.
Order it early, yeah.
It'll be a
Pre-order
deluxe
it
edition
from
thing.
Toys R Us.
No game, no hype.
But yeah, this was a fun stream. It was fun chatting about Dead Space. I'm so glad. Oh my god, look how many views Cass has.
I know. I'm gonna say we're about to make this pop off.
We're gonna give her because I looked, she had like 12 views earlier. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be so nice.
She had like 17 or something like when we were starting.
It was low, yeah. She's on her Minecraft server too. I might pop in there since I'm a sub.
We should get a Minecraft server.
We should. I mentioned that I love playing old Minecraft, like Minecraft beta and alpha, and it'd be kind of fun to have an old school Minecraft server, like a really old version one. Although I feel like that'd be too weird and people might not like that.
I feel like without the flashy bells, like if you're already playing vanilla Minecraft, like it's already kind of like people are like, what? You don't have like super modded Dino Arc Pokey Pixel Survivor mod?
What do you mean
like,
I can't
what?
build my nuclear reactor?
Yeah, literally, yes. Like you guys aren't building a working Game Boy playing Pokemon Blue version in your Minecraft server?
But yeah, this was a fun stream. I'm so glad, Burke, that you made me revisit Dead Space, because I probably wouldn't have revisited it anyway. I probably would have waited for the reboot before I went back to play it, but I'm very glad that you kind of encouraged me to go back and finish it, and I'm glad I did.
Really glad you all had a somewhat good time. Titus, I don't know what happened, how you ran out of ammo all the time, because we were in ammo surplus. Like I don't remember having this much ammo in Dead Space 2. Like,
I mean, I had a good time playing it because I was vibing with my friends.
We were in such ammo surplus. But it was fun.
I'm glad you all had a good experience though, because this is a game that literally, I even dare say, pulled me out of my teenage depression. So
really,
this was my only game. I only got one game a year, and this was my one game that year.
Is that why you've probably played through it so many times? Because it's the one game that like...
Oh, absolutely. Because my other two games I had was like Luigi's Mansion and Super Mario Sunshine, which I love both.
Hey, Sunshine, that's a good selection.
Yeah, those are all good games.
They're not bad games, but I'm saying when you can beat the game in like 6 hours or less, you need a little...
I noticed that with like there's a lot of older games that for whatever reason have just so much replay value. Like I think of Metroid. Metroid Prime is like, man, we got to do that one of these days.
I'm literally about to hook up my Wii to do a Metroid Prime run myself.
Ooh, I've gotten back into Metroid Prime, but through the emulator. So let's see if I can beat it.
Here's your reminder to anyone watching who doesn't own a physical copy of Metroid Prime Trilogy Collection, but wants one without pirating. The Wii U virtual service is going down by next year. It's only $20 on the Wii U virtual shop. Get it there if you want it. Cheap.
I wish I still had a Wii U.
I have a metal casing for mine.
I do too. I bought one. I told you that. Yeah, I bought one at a retro game store. Quote unquote retro. But yeah,
Cass has 62 viewers.
That's what I said. That's what I said, Titus.
Oh, I didn't see that until
she's like 60.
She's 11 on mine.
She's like 60 viewers.
Let's get going. Let's get
before we raid. You two plug yourselves right now.
Oh, okay.
One of you can go first.
I am Wild_Burk. I play a lot of horror games, but I'm kind of slowly delving into my more chill content. I hope you've had a good time, but I know everyone who's here still already watches me, so.
Titus?
I am twitch.tv/Titus the Dinosaur. Titus the Dinosaur. Titus the Dinosaur. Titus the Dinosaur. I also have linked there my YouTube channel and my Twitter, where you can see me attempt to be funny and upload VODs from my streams. Yeah, thanks for having me again, Andy. I always enjoy doing collabs with you guys.
Yeah, this was fun. And everybody who watches me, I'll be streaming again on Sunday with Burke as we reattempt Left 4 Dead.
Oh, we're not doing that Saturday?
I thought we were doing Sunday.
All right, cool. No, it's just good because that lets me know when I'm finishing Resident Evil 5.
Okay. Get it, Burke. You need a schedule, man. Come on. You need a planner.
You know what? That's literally what
those,
this next week's about.
One of those planners that you would get like in school.
Fine.
Those ones I just doodle on and never use.
And then I know, right? And then hopefully, I can get Kingdom Hearts finished, and we can finally do that. And then I'm probably gonna finish. I'll be honest. I think I'm gonna finish Legends Arceus before I finish Kingdom Hearts.
I will send you Kingdom Hearts memes every day until you finish.
Oh God! All right. We only have 6
Adios.
viewers, but let's go raid Cass. Good night, everybody. I will see you on Sunday. Let's get ready to raid. I sent it. Let me know if that works.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. See ya. All right, we're raiding Cass. Wow, what a good stream, everybody.
Yeah.
That was pretty fun.
Oh my god, Andy! Hi! Thank you! Thank you so much, Andy! How did your stream go?
Oh, that was fun. Hey,
Hello!
Cass
Welcome
called
to
us
my
out.
24-hour,
Raiders of the Lost stream.
donathon. As I'm trying to fund for this beautiful woman right here.
Oh, that was fun. That was a fun stream.
I think I should
I'm so glad I got to actually finally get like all my buildup of nerddom of Dead Space out of my head.
I haven't talked about
I'm
the
closing
design yet. So,
a YouTuber.
here's my design. It's based off a lot of me.
Oh,
where
yeah, there
I
goes
went
everybody.
A little more, I used to be a little more magical girl wizard.
Damn, how'd she get so many viewers? That's insane.
I don't know. She must have been rated. Because she's only been live for like a few hours tonight. Like she went live. She went live like a little bit before we went. We started.
Been up for 5 hours according to the timer.
Yeah.
Let's be
Jeez.
real though. Out of all of us, Kaz will probably draw in the biggest crowd. She also has a longer foundation.
Exactly. Her and Val.
Yeah.
I've never seen when Val takes off on content though, because whenever I've watched him, it's I wake up at like 2 p.m. my time.
My ears aren't actually. I'm not.
So everyone in England's
But, you
fucking
know.
asleep by then. The only time I wake up early is when I
like
do D&D with Val, and that stream doesn't pop off as the other ones do.
Yeah, and I've had my name as Cast the Wizard for the longest. And
Oh man.
Dude, what I would
you
give
see
to have
here
60
around me
viewers.
is my
Like,
Dude, I
holy
know.
crap.
9 viewers right now.
now lore is
Nice.
kind
Ooh,
of
nice.
pending.
Perfect
It's
for her,
still, like,
perfect.
It's an ongoing process.
That is that is a
I'm
very
using
cast
lore.
number.
Dude, it's really weird. Every time I talk to Kaz, it's like
Just
the
for
briefest of
sole
moments, but
reason
we have the most nice
that,
exchange.
I think I
Yeah,
have
Cass
to
is
do a
cool.
pitch, so I think I shout him out.
Last time we were just joking about Cubans in Florida for
Yeah,
like
this is my
30
artist,
minutes
by the way.
because she's from Cuba.
Oh, is she
we were
Cuban?
yeah, she's Cuban. So we were just trading raft jokes the whole time.
Oh my god.
Like she rolls with it.
Oh,
Like she
shit.
understands. Like she's
Yeah,
like,
I
"Well, you
have
seem
this-
like you would fit in on the East Coast type of humor," and I'm like, "Yep, I can roll with it."
I have access to her
Alright,
Minecraft
let's
server,
go.
so later tonight I might join in.
Yeah.
I'm literally gonna be
So,
playing Dead Space 3 in a minute.
Of course you are.
I gotta get this foam
oh,
finger.
y'all can't get up here.
Here, I'm just gonna